Oh, this debate is gonna be really tricky for Xander. This is gonna be a, this is gonna be one. Good luck.
That, I mean, in the very same passage, you talk about how...
Oh, no. Oh, no, dude, not good.
I hate when people compare depression, cancer, all these other things to transgenderism.
Well, it's absolutely comparable because we can...
Let her finish. Let her finish. Why does she hate it? Let her hang herself with her own words. Don't cut her off. Why is it not comparable?
With all data.
As if someone chooses to identify as depressed or detransitions from being depressed later.
Well, no one chooses to have gender dysphoria.
And notice how she frames him as being the bad guy. Like, why are you trying to drag me into a debate about trans people? I just wanted to talk about my book. Like, that's what you brought me here for. It was rhetorically effective to make him seem like the kind of like aggressive debate bro. No, why wouldn't you focus on the other thing? Why wouldn't you focus on the depression? No, why would you go down the cancer route? Oh no, you took, that wasn't even like a choice. You didn't even have the option to f that up. Why would you do this? Oh no. Oh, he picked the wrong one. I need you guys to be more excited in chat, okay? We're back after like a week-long vacation.
Welcome back, feels okay, man. It's fun to stay at the
D.GG, right guys? All right, how are we doing? Damn, also, you guys are so mean to this guy. I feel like, maybe it's just me, or maybe I empathize with him as a fellow content creator, but like, it sounds to me like, if I was in your position, and I was writing, okay? This is what my post would sound like. Xander Hall debate with Lauren Southern goes very wrong, and it'd be like, I watched the Xander Hall debate with Lauren Southern, and man, it seems like he stumbled over a lot of things. Definitely needs to improve on some things in the future. Probably not the greatest platforming of her, and he ends up letting her get away with a lot of dumb something like that, right? This seems to be what happened. I haven't watched it yet. But when you guys read it, it's like, Xander Hall, young, retarded, 21-year-old lost child stumbles into internet debate arena and gets eviscerated by white nationalist Nazi Lauren Southern that bends him over her knee and fucking destroys him in the internet arena of blood sports. What a disgusting and horrible display. If I wasn't so far left, I would have told this guy to kill himself 400 times by now because of how absolutely fucking embarrassing this guy's performance was. How can he even show his face on the fucking internet without putting a paper bag over it first with the label dumb fuck all over it? Like, that's your guys' like criticism is like insane. It's like, oh my God, just chill. Jesus. Somebody posts is like, man, I don't know, he's kind of young and maybe a little dumb. And then like the next Reddit post is, Xander Hall being 21 is not a legitimate excuse for his massive fucking failure at dealing with Lawrence. Like, oh my God, just chill. Jesus. Chill. Just calm down. It's okay, all right? Oh my God.
And I do appreciate you admitting in your review of my book that you were a bit prejudiced when first picking it up and you actually like it. You're a fan of the ABCs of morality.
Yeah, overall, I don't think there's anything, like at least on a surface level, that's worth taking too much issue with. Though I was just curious and I wanted to see if you would elaborate on some of the meaning behind a few of the definitions that you gave.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, good book, but there are a few problems you have. That's where we're at.
To be fair, the problems aren't really with the book itself. I guess if I were to give my concern in a more succinct manner, I would say, knowing you as a conservative figure, you are certainly conservative and pretty well known for that. I feel as though if a well-known leftist figure wrote a book for kids and the main idea behind it was to teach kids like values of some kind, right? Most likely left-wing values. I'm curious, would this not perhaps make you a little bit suspicious?
It would depend what the book actually said. And that's what kind of surprised me at first and why I quite frankly accepted this debate, is I couldn't believe you would challenge me to debate a book you had never read before. It was just, you know, there's kind of this degree of internet brain rot people get where they just assume this person is on righty Twitter or this person is on left-wing Twitter, therefore anything they produce must be completely evil, irredeemable, and I know I'm going to be able to debate them on it because I'm going to disagree with everything they say, and that's just not how the world works. And I have no doubt that there could be a left-wing YouTuber or creator that could write a children's book in which I would agree with everything in it. I would never, you know, straight up assume every single bit of it is going to be awful. Now, I have seen left-wing kids books that I've read, and I read it and I disagree with the points, and I think, I don't really think that's quite for children, but that's after I've actually opened it up and read it. And I don't think the author is as relevant to children's books as people like to think. You know, are we going to get rid of, say, The Jungle Book, because a lot of people consider Kipling to be racist, or say Horton Hears a Who, which has become an explicitly kind of anti-racist message, despite the fact that now people consider Dr. Seuss to be bigoted. So I just, even if you don't like me and you don't think I'm a good person or whatever your opinion of me is, which I probably disagree with, I don't think the author is as relevant as you may try to portray. But I also think you've kind of worked yourself into a corner here where you've told people you're going to debate me on the book, but you don't actually disagree with the book that much. So I genuinely feel there's going to be a lot of reaches here. But correct me if I'm wrong.
I guess we'll see. I'm actually curious.
Oh, no. So the problem is that a lot of the things that people say that are like dumb people or bad people, the advice itself isn't actually bad advice. It's actually usually really good advice. The problem is that they don't actually follow it. So for instance, like when somebody says, do your own research, that's actually good advice. The problem is that the people that say do your own research never do their own research. They just go by conspiracy theories. Or when somebody says, like, I know that, like, in her book, G is for groupthink, and she's against groupthink. That's actually true. You should be against, like, groupthink. You should try to, like, arrive at decisions or answers yourself. Like, that's important to do. But conservatives do massive groupthink, right? Oh, this debate is going to be really tricky for Xander. This is going to be this is going to be one. Good luck.
Because you brought up the idea that the author of a book doesn't really matter, especially if it's a children's book where the beliefs of that author aren't necessarily apparent on surface level. Are you familiar with a phrase, the death of the author?
Yes.
Yeah, so
In what context are you using it with this? Yeah.
I guess the idea is that if you have a piece of media and there's no apparent bias or message put in by the author that indicates the author's beliefs, yet you know the author believes these things, and this is a piece of media or art, a book, a movie, anything like that, the idea is that you try to separate the art itself from the artist. Now, if I were to do that with this book, I don't really have all that big an issue with it, like really. But what I'm more concerned about is what you mean when you say certain things in the book, because I know that like you're probably not going to put in everything that you agree with in the book, or like it's not meant to be super overtly political. So I'm more interested in discussing your motivations behind the definitions for the words that you put in there, and that's what we could discuss.
Sure, let's do that. And where would you like to start? What are the words that you have the most issue with, let's say?
Okay, yeah, I don't want to go over every single one, obviously, because I don't take issue with most of them. But I guess we can start on E.
There's like 26 of them, huh?
Okay, do you mind if I read it off?
I'm sorry, this image, this is like nothing bad about Xander Hall or whatever. I'd probably do this anyway. But the idea of like, we're going to have a super serious debate as I flip through the pages on my 4 kids book is just very funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. E is for equal opportunity. Everyone is equal when they're judged on the same scale, praised if they're successful, and accepting if they fail. Everyone, both boy and girl, of every race and class, should live by the same standards that they should strive to surpass. Don't try for special treatment for your friends or for your enemies. If you lose a game that's fair, you can learn from the memories of what you might have done wrong and what you can do right, which is always better than a rigged and unfair fight. So, pretty good rhymes there. I like it.
Thank you. I heard you said I dropped some bars. I appreciate that. Big compliment.
Yeah, we got some fire bars in here. So, I'm curious because obviously there's a lot of discussion about equality and rigged or fair fights in the political scene. I'm curious if this wasn't perhaps a slight reference to the idea of like systemic racism, for example. What was your thought process behind making that particular rhyme?
Actually, the ABCs of equality, which was the kind of left-wing edition of this book that I wrote this to be a more neutral version of, put just equality for theirs, and they defined it in more of the left-leaning terms of, equality is when you kind of even the scales and everything, which of course I don't really agree with the idea that, for example, you should boost certain people's grades to get into universities dependent on their race. I disagree with that. I think we should be judged on the same scale as people. I think that that creates true equality. I shouldn't be given special treatment if I'm a woman. A man shouldn't be given special treatment if he's a man. I'm pretty sure that's what we call patriarchy, if it's only men being hired because they're men. So I do think this, once again, is something that can lean both left and right. No one, if they're white, they shouldn't be given special treatment. If they're black, they shouldn't be given special treatment. I'd like to think that's not something we disagree on.
No, principally, of course not. I'm curious, though, because obviously a lot of very left-leaning people would bring up something like white privilege. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, no.
I think that it is used as something that's far too broad and across the board to tell people's stories for them, and it's really dehumanizing in a lot of ways for people whose lives are not privileged, and yet they have, white skin. I'm not for the idea of white privilege. I think that's pretty evident. I think it's relevant to consider historically relevant systems that exist. So, for example, if you're in a European country, yes, it is more likely that people who are white are going to be the royalty. It is more likely that they are going to be established and wealthy because they've been there longer. They are the ones who established a country. We can talk about that, but there's also peasants. There are also people who are oppressed. There are also, even in the forming of America, I won't compare it directly to slavery, but it's not like the Irish or Italians were thought of particularly highly. So I think that we shouldn't use these terms that really work people into boxes and deny their personal life experience and history. My personal history, my grandmother was a war orphan who was sent to orphanages and homes in Australia and had to escape because she was horribly abused, and got on a boat at 16 to Canada, where she grew up homeless and dumpster diving. I think it would be horrible to say she had a privileged life just because of her skin color. So I really reject the notion that we can just assume everyone who has white skin has some sort of privilege. But I do think it's relevant to say in some areas, people who have white skin may be more likely to have privilege or wealth.
Do you mind if...
Oof! I'm sorry, did you think I was talking to you? What? Do you know what I found in my pocket in this sweatshirt from the last time?
Wait. It's right here. Oh my god! It was actually not in your
Oh
book. It was
my
right
god!
here.
You took it out. Oh, it's not in here at all. Oh
It's
my
right
god!
here.
You got it. Good job. Nice. Good job. You found it. Thank you.
Like, comment, write some dumb shit below.
Okay. Lauren Southern's explanation of privilege here is actually 100% correct. Fuck. Xander Hall needs to be careful here. Okay. White privilege, now, a lot of lefties seem to have trouble with this, okay? Or people have trouble with this. White privilege does not mean that every single white person is ahead of every single non-white person. It just means that there might be some set of unearned advantages by virtue of being white versus any other race. Now, there might be a poor white person whose life is fucked, but if they were a poor black person, their life might be even more fucked. Technically, this is correct, right? So you can find common ground here on the definitions and then say like, yeah, okay, so we agree. So don't you think it might be important sometimes to address that? Which Lauren Southern is kind of conceding. She's saying like, well, man, it might be important to address like, that some people might come from wealthy backgrounds and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, don't you think that maybe the groupthink thing is a bit reductive? Although in a kid's book, I don't know if you're going to be having complicated discussions about like the differences in people's like backgrounds. But be careful. Mel?
Yeah?
Why do you keep leaving this door open?
Because we need fresh air, John.
But then turn the air off. We don't have the AC. We're not paying to heat the whole fucking neighborhood, Mel. Our neighbors aren't contributing to my electric bill.
If I elaborate on the definition of white privilege, at least as I understand it, and as most of the academic community
I
seems to.
understand there are different definitions of white privilege, but I'm talking about it in the way that it is popularly used within pop culture, within discussion, within even my own classrooms when I was growing up. But feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, so when at least I talk about white privilege, and when most academics talk about white privilege, they're usually referring to the remnants or even still existing systems that seem to specifically target the vast majority of people of color, typically, but not white people. So, for example...
Okay, something that's also really important, guys, Okay. I don't know who else had a grade school education like this. Everything you learn about plagiarizing in grade school is completely and totally wrong, okay? The idea that good research is when you take a sentence, copy paste it, but then you rephrase the sentence and now it's not plagiarism is not true. In fact, I'm pretty sure in college you can still get docked for plagiarizing. Not docked, but like academic fucking whatever. Like for plagiarizing, if you just copy sentences and paraphrase them, that still counts as plagiarizing. Because you're not actually integrating the information, synthesizing it with what you know, and then creating something unique, right? You're just rephrasing something. It's very, very, very important that when you talk about ideas like this, you've internalized them, and you can speak about them, and you can speak about them in different types of ways. So like Xander Hall, I'm being very, very, very picky right now. So most of you guys would fuck this up too, okay? So I don't think I'm being very, very, very picky for Xander Hall. But Xander Hall, like listening to her definition and then launching into his own definition here, I feel like he should have at least like acknowledged some common ground here, because everything he's about to explain more or less can apply to Lawrence Southern's as well. It makes me wonder sometimes if we've just memorized and we're rehearsing like a definition rather than we've actually synthesized the information and now we're going to like integrate it into a conversation or something.
Here's a good example, right? You can be a poor white person and have it really, really rough, right? And you could have a rich black person who, economically speaking, has it very, very well. There are still certain things that white person has, very small privileges that white person has over that rich black person. Is it life-changing? Is it revolutionary for their overall well-being? Probably not, but it is still worth talking about, because when we get down to it, these are the types of biases and the types of privileges we probably don't want to exist in society, right?
Sure.
Yeah, she won't disagree with any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, typically I'm referring to things like the injustice in the racial justice system, the racism there. We agree on that, right? You agree about like the racism in the criminal justice system?
Uh-oh.
You'd have to point out direct examples. I think people would argue that it could go either way in some cases. But you'd have to, historically, most likely we'd agree. Modern times, I don't know. We could also talk about, once again, the racism in college admissions. We could talk about the racism in affirmative action hiring and how people who are more qualified for roles don't get them because of their skin color or because...
Okay. Potentially controversial take, especially in the wake of the Asian hate crimes in the United States, okay? Now listen, I love Asian people, okay? All Asian people, Asian men even, okay? Who are hated on the internet, I guess, or think they are. Okay? When you complain about reverse discrimination as Asians, you guys cannot compare that to the discrimination against black people, okay? When your life experience is like, all of us are so wealthy and do so well in school and have such great families and shit that it's harder for us to get into college because of our scores. This is just like black people being discriminated against. Nah, this ain't it, chief, okay? Now, can we argue that there are some forms of discrimination that exist against Asian people in some of the selective practices that some colleges exercise, like on the margins or whatever? Sure. But that's not the same as other types of discrimination, okay? Like when your whole class is doing like so well that like you're disproportionately overrepresented at every single Ivy League institution in the United States. Now, again, is there an argument that it might be good, might be bad? Sure, we can have those discussions, but you can't say it's the same type of discrimination that like black people or Hispanics face. That's a different type of thing. But yeah.
Because of their gender. And you would say that that's an equaling out of things. But I disagree with you there.
I actually would disagree, because I think, from my understanding, I believe those that benefit most from affirmative action are actually white women, like more well-off white women, from my understanding.
I don't disagree with that, and I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that affirmative action on its own is exactly the best way to go about amending these particular problems. But when I talk about...
Okay, and I agree with you. That's what this is saying. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing to boost people just because of their skin color or their race, because it actually takes away from the achievements of very successful minorities, very successful women that have worked hard for these positions, and everyone looks at them and questions, did you get this because you were an affirmative action hire, or did you get this because you're an incredibly talented individual? So I don't think it's been positive for anyone in any way, and even you're saying yourself, actually this has just benefited certain classes and groups, and it's not necessarily been positive at correcting the overall problem.
Yeah, so when I talk about privilege or systems that are racist. I'm not necessarily referring to like affirmative action. I'm referring to things that are a lot easier to pinpoint and there's a lot more data behind and that are way more impactful in most people's lives than just whether or not this person gets hired for this job because they're white or black, or this person gets accepted to this university because they're white or black. I'm referring more to like the overrepresentation of incarceration in prisons when it comes to black people and white people, the overall socioeconomic position of black people in this country, and just generally non-white people as well. I'm talking about issues like this. Obviously, the leftover ramifications.
Can I just quickly tell you something?
Sure.
I'm not addressing any of that in this book. It's a children's book. I am certainly not trying to make any sort of hidden mention of, the incarceration rates. I'm not talking about that at all. This is literally just saying we should treat people equally regardless of their gender or skin color and judge them on the same scale. That's it. There's no hidden message here talking about all of these extensive subjects you've brought up here. And even if I wanted to, there couldn't be. It's a children's book. It's an extremely simplified concept. So I really think you're using this point that you don't really disagree with to go off on tons of other topics that you maybe want to discuss with me and we can save for later when we're done the book. But this has nothing to do with all of these topics you brought up, that equal opportunity bit.
Well, I apologize if it seems that way, but my main point is that you can't completely separate the beliefs of the author from the art. So when I read this, my interpretation...
Oh, that's going to be a big no from me, fam. I have not heard very often people take the other side of the death of the author to say, well, the author is not dead. They're actually inseparable from their work. Well, I guess some people have.
Was, okay, so we're talking about equality and how people should strive to surpass and winning a rigged fight isn't really something that's worth any merit. And so I couldn't help but think of because I watched a lot of your content back in the day of when you would talk about how the left overblows the problems with the racial inequalities in the criminal justice system. It just brought me back to that.
It had nothing to do with that. And okay, you guys can look it up. There's this book called Postmodern Pooh, and it's a book which tries to argue in jest that Winnie the Pooh is actually just rife with post-colonial theory, and it's actually books about satanic ritual abuse using Piglet and other things, and it's quite a funny book for adults to read. And it mocks the idea of over reading into this and how you could literally interpret these kids' books to be the craziest ideas you can come up with. And I think you're starting to just go into that territory.
Like with Attack on Titan.
A little bit, where you are taking this book and somehow making a poem about, hey, we should treat all genders and races equally, about the disparity in incarceration rates in America. I can tell you right now, that wasn't even in the peripheral of my mind when I was writing this. And I do think this brings it back to the point I was making, which is, I feel you've worked yourself into a corner where you don't actually disagree with this book. You don't disagree with me on the content. So you are trying to deliberately create disagreement that isn't there.
Okay. Yeah, if you didn't have any political, if there were no references or bias politically to this and it was just hey, we should treat everyone equally, then I have no issue with that. Okay. Do you want to move on to the, I guess it's the next two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put the F is for femininity and M is for masculinity one together. Because I feel like they reference... I'm actually... This is going to be a genuine question because I'm curious if your opinion on this has changed. So I don't need to read off the whole thing, but you say at the end of the one for femininity, if you want to be a tomboy, that's okay. Some girls aren't feminine. And then at the end of the masculinity one, you say if you're a boy and you don't want to be masculine, that's all right. So I'm curious if... because I was actually really surprised to read that. Are you... have you sort of become more supportive of trans and gender nonconforming people in the last
oh my
at
God.
least since last time I heard you talk about that particular topic?
What does this book have to do with trans people? They're not mentioned at all in it.
Well, you specifically said that not all women have to be feminine, not all men have to be masculine. And I assume, gender nonconforming means you don't conform to traditional gender roles. That's what that's referencing, right?
You know, there are guys who are completely straight that act in feminine ways, or there are guys that are completely cis, so to speak, that aren't entirely masculine, and there are women that are completely cis and not transgender individuals that act like tomboys. I was a tomboy when growing up. Being a are you under the impression that being a tomboy makes you transgender?
No, absolutely not. But this is obviously
well, then how
encompassed.
did you read that from this?
So are you only referring to cisgendered people that are like straight?
Okay, to be fair, okay, we're gonna be fair to Xander Hall. This is a really hard debate, okay? Because he chose a really bad topic. He should not have. This was a mistake, okay? For somebody to write a totally this is kind of like, it reminds me where, and I wish I could say I expect more from you guys, but you guys do it too. This, let me give you the microcosm of what this debate is. I opened a Jordan Peterson video, okay? And Jordan Peterson starts talking, and he's like, oh, well, you know, I think that when people have trauma, I think it's really important that they, you know, find ways to address this in their lives. And, you know, I don't think that it's just as, you know, it's not just as simple as, say, like just taking a pill and expecting all of it to go away, right? Jordan Peterson will say something like that, and everyone in chat will be like, oh my God, Jordan Peterson, horrible person. And it's like, well, no, I mean, he's right? Like, it's like, that's correct. Like, even if you are in therapy, you can't just get prescribed a drug and it fixes your depression. It doesn't work that way, right? It's way more complicated than that. And then everybody were like, oh yeah, true, right. Where people are like so fucking eager to shit on somebody because they disagree with their politics. And a lot of what they say is genuinely horror. Peterson has a lot of dog shit fucking takes, especially political takes. But like, that doesn't mean that we have to agree with every single fucking thing a person says and demonize every single fucking thing a person writes about. Don't do that. Don't fall into that trap. It's really dumb, okay? It's really dumb. Don't do that. You do this. You do this sometimes. Stop doing it. Stop doing it, okay? My food takes are right. I'm sorry. All right.
And just happen to not really fall in.
I am not bringing up the subject of transgenderism in a children's book. I'm completely against the idea of bringing transgender ideology onto children who are barely even starting to consider the fact of their own, what is, you know, being a female and a male. I don't believe in bringing transgender ideology onto children at all. So no, this has nothing to do with that.
Why are you okay with putting cisgender ideology into that? I mean, in the very same passage, you talk about how...
Oh, no. Oh, no, dude. Not good. What? Isn't Lauren Southern, isn't she like 30 now? She's done the rounds of this, okay? Hopefully, I would hope. I don't think she's gonna get tripped up in like, oh, she's 25. I don't think she's gonna get tripped up. Well, okay, never mind. She's 25. Fuck her. She might get tripped up in this. You under 30ers, okay? You guys don't know what it's like out here in the hardcore world of debates.
Football and bravery and whatnot is masculine. Mothers and princesses are feminine.
That's what masculine means. Teaching them words, femininity and masculinity. That's what these words mean.
Well, that's true. Femininity and masculinity has nothing to do with cis or trans. Trans people can be feminine or masculine. Cis people can be feminine or masculine. Non-binary people can have feminine or masculine. It has nothing to do with cis or trans.
You just said you don't want the transgender ideology being taught to them, but this is, I guess you could say, the cisgender ideology.
Transgender ideology is a highly politicized subject that, when put on kids, can lead them to make all sorts of life-changing decisions, which they are not old enough to make yet, ones which can change their biology, make them infertile, lead to mass amounts of confusion, and quite frankly, in my opinion, I have a lot of love for people who are struggling with gender identity issues. I do. I have friends that are transgender. I have friends that have detransitioned. And it is not something that is fun. It is not fun thinking that you are, or being in the wrong body, however you want to portray it. It's not some joyous thing that you just say, yeah, choose that. No, in a lot of ways, we should teach people to be comfortable in their own body and to embrace and love it. And if later on it turns out they are having issues with gender identity, that is not something you try to promote. It is an issue. It is a struggle to be born in the wrong body or have, you know, body dysmorphia. That's not, like, I don't understand.
A really good rhetorical tactic here is if you can find a way to integrate your adversaries' complaints into your solution, it is an incredibly effective rhetorical technique. So let's say that we were arguing in favor of gay conversion therapy, right? Which To my understanding, there's zero empirical evidence that you can convert somebody away from being gay. That's my understanding of that, right? Instead of coming out and saying that, like, gay people are evil, fuck gay people, let's just make them all straight, instead of doing that, if you can take over, if you can commandeer the language and the vocabulary of your adversary and be like, gay people have it really hard in life. They have a lot of struggles. There's a lot of problems with the way that we treat gay people in America. It's super fucked up. All of the uphill battles and everything that they face in different aspects of life. That's why I advocate for like gay conversion therapy so that they don't have to deal with things like this. Like I have a lot of gay friends, right? When you commandeer their language and you take over it and then you use it to push your own agenda, it's very effective. I don't agree with almost anything Lauren Southern has said here. She's like getting away with a lot of dumb shit, but she's couching it in such a way that she sounds empathetic towards trans people. And it's incredibly effective, I think, at getting that point across.
I understand this idea that we should teach people to be happy with choosing to be transgender as if it's some choice. I choose to have body dysmorphia. Like, it's a really big struggle, which has high suicide rates, high rates of depression, even depression after surgery. It's
Wait, hold on, real quick. Whether or not someone is capable of graduating is one of the key indicators the admissions office looks at when they decide who to admit. So I think I have this now in my positions on my website. I wrote a little bit about like the affirmative action stuff. The affirmative action stuff, god damn it. I just crashed my computer with whatever dumb shit I just clicked on. The affirmative action stuff has to be done very carefully because apparently that phenomenon is very real, where people get affirmative actioned into schools and then they start to drop out at very high rates because they shouldn't have gone to that school. And it can be incredibly demotivating for the people that end up qualifying in. And those selections need to take place in a much more careful way. What the fuck is happening? What did I do? I tried to print? Is it looking for a printer? Oh. Shit, did it find one? I think it's called the mismatch problem. I'm just going to read this from my site. Affirmative action tends to run into trouble in universities where huge mismatch problems occur. Minority students who are given too much preferential treatment in admissions will massively underperform their peers, causing them to drop out at disproportionately higher rates. Though some argue in favor of aggressive affirmative action for higher education, they often only look at the enrollment rates as indicators of success rather than the actual college achievement. I think in one of these that I link, there were some colleges where they looked at it and they said, oh, look, we did affirmative action and the enrollment rates doubled. Or rather, I think it might have been, was it in California? They got rid of affirmative action and the admission rates dropped, they were cut in half. And everybody pointed to that and they're like, look, this is horrible. We got rid of affirmative action and the rates got cut in half. But when you looked at the absolute number of people graduating, it actually was the exact same. If that's the case, then technically, whatever chaff got cut there in the affirmative action removal, that was actually beneficial because now you basically didn't enroll a bunch of people where there was a huge mismatch problem that wouldn't have graduated anyways. Yeah. Oh, and then this is a very interesting read. I think this guy finds the students that graduated from, it was like the first college, I think, was it Columbia University? That the first admissions for affirmative action. It follows a lot of the stories of those students. It's just an interesting read on it. For how people felt about it in their lives and stories at the time. But yeah, hurting enrollment isn't necessarily bad if your graduation rates are remaining the same, right? If you have 10 black people join your school and 6 graduate, and then you do affirmative action and 20 black people join your school and 6 graduate, that's a big mismatch problem. Not good. Be careful with that. Yeah, sorry, okay.
To some degrees, and this is a debate I understand in the left-wing community, whether it's a mental illness or not, and how this debate affects whether insurance claims will fund.
No. Oh, God, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I'm going to come off as incredibly dickish saying this. If you don't know a lot about trans issues, do not talk about them or debate them. I'm sorry to say this, but especially if you're trans, okay? If you don't know like the ins and outs of all of these arguments, just leave it alone. Just say like, hey, listen, you know what? I don't want to talk about trans shit, it's too complicated. Just back the fuck away from it, okay? As human beings, we are capable of experiencing and feeling a lot of stuff that we don't understand. Just because you have a lived experience, just because you endure something or go through something, does not mean that you understand it, okay? There are a lot of fucking people that flunk out of basic fucking algebra in college, but they can walk in one direction, turn their head in another direction, and then track a moving object with their eyeballs in like a third. You're moving through like 7 different fucking dimensions of movement, perfectly smoothly following anything, and you can't even do like single variable fucking algebra, okay? Like, just because you're capable of doing something or experiencing something with your body does not mean that you're capable of explaining it, or more importantly, understanding it in order to explain it to other people, all right? Just, yeah.
people's surgeries or not. But there is a debate as to whether this is a mental illness. There is a debate to the psychological impacts this has on people. This book is about basic concepts of life. And female and male, these two genders, are literally how humanity has existed from the dawn of time. You can't reproduce without them both. And the idea of femininity and masculinity are two concepts which have existed for a very long time throughout history. And the only reason I'm bringing them up is, quite frankly, because society has demonized them in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to tell kids, actually, it's okay to be feminine and masculine.
All right. Okay, we got a lot to go over there because you brought a lot of things up, and I do want to acknowledge all of it. So, firstly, I understand that the issue of trans people is very, very politicized, right? There's a huge political debate about it. My opinions on this issue.
I'm not bringing it up in a kid book.
Okay, sure. My opinions about transgender people are entirely backed by science, okay? I have done tons of research into this. If you want any of my sources or anything like that, I can provide them to you very happily in an instant, okay?
The only way that you can start to make those appeals is once you've reached the bottom. So let's say, for instance, so here's two ways the conversation can go. I think that rent control is bad. Well, I think that rent control is good. Oh, well, I think it's bad because I think that it doesn't improve the housing stock in an area. I think it discourages reinvestment in rent control units. And I think it discourages other people from coming into the city. Oh, well, I disagree because of these things, blah, 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 blah. And then you argue. And then maybe at the very end, you come to some rock bottom. You're like, well, I don't think it does this. And I think it does this. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Here are my sources that say this. Like, unless you got something different, like, I'm sorry, Chief. Like, we're done here, right? Here's a way to not do this discussion. Hey, I think that rent control is good. Oh, well, I think that rent control is bad. And all of the sources agree with me. Oh. I guess there's not much to talk about then, huh? You can't open with that. The appealing to like the sources or the science or whatever, that's like at the end of the discussion, or that's when you've reached some rock bottom point where there's no more conversation to be had.
So first of all, there are no kids that are being brainwashed into being transgender and engaging in some total body-changing, biologically irreversible thing that's happening to them.
That's false. That's false. I'm watching
This is
it happen
true.
right now within my own community in
Well,
Canada. We've
can you
got
give me an
family
example?
friends that are dealing with this. We've got family friends that are dealing with this in Canada with their daughter who is 14 years old, who is currently trying to transition and go on hormones. And they told her, we love you, we support you, but we just want to wait until you're at an age, 18, you know, the age you're allowed to drink, vote, all of these huge decisions, get tattoos. Just wait till then, because this is something that can affect your fertility. This is something that can affect your bone mass. This is something that can...
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry, but if you wanted to maintain your bone mass and not affect your bone density, you shouldn't have been a woman, Chief, because menopause and periods will fuck over your bones, okay? They just do, all right? Number one. Number two, okay? Because the framing of our conversations has moved so far, like progressive in a good way over the past few years, it is so easy to just use gay people as an example, because even conservatives aren't going to sit here and say like, well, gay people aren't real, right? It would be so easy to say, well, what do you think about a 14-year-old that says that they're gay and their parents say you're not allowed to be gay, you need to be 18 to make that decision? Would you say that a 14-year-old doesn't know if they're gay or not, right? Like, I think that would have been, I don't know if Xander Hall is going to make that appeal, but I think that appeal is a very easy like middle ground. It's like, well, maybe children, you know, do know some things, right? And then also, because these conservatives love to appeal to certain types of scientific evidence so often, one thing that conservatives love to do is they like to say, men and women are fundamentally different. In fact, we even know that at an early age, boys prefer certain types of toys over girls, even as early as 2 to 3 months in age. And that's actually true. This is actually psychological like research that supports this. Jordan Peterson cites this stuff all the time. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, if men and women start to differentiate in the womb, arguably, right? But the behavior is apparent even a couple months of their birth, how can you say they have no familiarity with what their gender is, or what they think their gender ought to be, right? Like, these are like really basic, like rhetorical appeals that you can use, not to win a debate, but just to kind of like move the discussion forward, rather than just saying that like science agrees with me, right?
Can really affect your health. I have friends that have detransitioned that still can't afford the surgeries for their detransitioning, and it's totally ruined their mental health. So at least...
Damn. Oh, wait. Can't afford the surgeries for their detransition. Isn't sex reassignment surgery? That's like some very, very rare stuff, isn't it? Fuck, this is a stat that I don't know, but I would be comfortable arguing this without knowing the stat. I'm pretty sure very few trans people actually go through with the full SRS, the full sex reassignment surgery. There might be Man, there might be trans women that do the top surgery, maybe. But like even that is probably, but actually, well, maybe if you've got trans men that get like mastectomies, right? Is it a mastectomy is when you remove the breast tissue? But man, I think this is pretty rare. Like these surgeries are very expensive. If you're a trans woman, boob removal is also expensive. If you're a trans woman, you get fake boobs. I'm pretty sure taking out fake boobs is pretty easy. Like they reopen the incision and they take the boobs out. I mean, is this outpatient surgery? I don't know, like if it's super duper simple. I'm pretty sure it's like fairly simple, like getting them. But like, also keep in mind, okay, two very, very, very important terms, okay? SRS, okay, sex reassignment surgery involves scalpels and operations and shit, okay? HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is not any type of surgical stuff, okay? I seriously doubt, I would be shocked. I would be fucking shocked if Lauren Southern knew more than one person that's actually had sex reassignment surgery. I don't think I know a single person that's actually had any I guess Lumi had, they're public, right? Or whatever their name is. I don't know what the fuck they call themselves now. I'm pretty sure they had like a top surgery, but it's really, really, really rare. That's a pretty rare thing. It's just like, I think actually, wait, hold on. Well, before we say that, can we find, okay. Percentage of trans people SRS. I wonder what the actual percentage is. I'm going by the first Vox link I say. This is higher than I thought it would be. 33% said that they had surgically transitioned. I'm guessing that it probably includes top surgery too. This is according to the 2011 National Transgender Discrimination Survey. Still only 1/3 of all trans people, which are already a really small subset. More than I thought though, but I wonder how hard it is to undo top surgery. I guess it would depend on which direction you're going, huh? Also, I'm pretty sure people that detransition, I'm pretty sure that number is really, really rare as well. You can't undo a mastectomy? It's mastectomy, right? Is it mastectomy or mastectomy? Fuck, no, I don't remember. It's mastectomy. Somebody in chat pointed out that it's not the same surgery, that you don't get a mastectomy if you're female to male. I don't know what the actual surgery is for, top surgery for people, but all right.
At least wait until you're at a certain age, they've said. Canadian social services have come in and said, no, you will take your child away if you do not allow them to get this treatment. And this is something that's also just been documented. I've got a video on my channel about it, a more public case in the same province, British Columbia in Canada, where a man's child is transitioning and going through hormone treatment underage.
All right, hold on.
The state are not allowing him to oppose it.
I have a question. If you have a child who has manic depression and the doctors recommend that they get on antidepressants, and the parents say, no, I don't want any of this for my kid, at least not until they're old enough, do you think it would be valid for the government to say, hey, if you're not going to give your kid what they need to deal with their mental health, then we're going to have to take them away from you because they're a danger, you're being a danger to them?
I hate when people compare depression, cancer, all these other things to transgenderism.
Well, it's absolutely comparable because we can...
Let her finish. Let her finish. Why does she hate it? Let her hang herself with her own words. Don't cut her off. Why is it not comparable?
With all data.
If someone chooses to identify as depressed or detransitions from being depressed later.
Well, no one chooses to have gender dysphoria.
Wait. But no. But people are detransitioning. That's the point.
Very
I don't think
few.
People choose to have gender. No, that's not true.
Very few.
I don't think people choose to have depression or gender dysphoria, but no one is detransitioning from having cancer. No one is detransitioning from having depression.
Cancer is a really bad comparison. Depression is different. There are people, you don't detransition from having depression, but the depression thing is actually a really good comparison because there are people that stop taking antidepressive medications for a variety of reasons. There are people that take antidepressive medications. Are they called antipsychotics? Is an SSRI an antipsychotic? I don't think it counts as an antipsychotic, does it? There are people that stop taking these medications because they like feel suicidal, or these medications like literally cause them to kill themselves. They absolutely do with these types of medications. Your point is that people don't get over depression and then feel regret and want to be depressed again. Yeah, but I don't know how many, I guess this would be an appeal to the data. How many people get over feeling trans and regret transitioning? This is a data point that would have to be appealed to. I think somebody in chat said it earlier. The numbers that I've seen, it's like 1 to 5% of people that transition end up regretting it or whatever. That's a very, very, very low number. That's my understanding of it. If it's higher, then this would be a data point to argue about.
Simply the fact of people detransitioning means we have to be very careful and very serious about who we allow to take these treatments, and children who, quite frankly, have they do not have established ideas about who they are and what they want.
1 out of 5 seems very high. 1 to 5%? 5% is not 1 out of 5.
In life yet. I think about tattoos I wanted even when I was 17, 18 that I look back at and I'm like, oh my gosh. Or even I think of identities I had as a young child, thinking that, you know, we're a dog. My sister and I used to dress up as boys and go to the skate park and have fun pretending to be boys then.
Wait, hold on for a second, okay? Hold on. I feel like we're moving off from just let me finish what I was about to say, okay? So in the overwhelming amount of data, it has been shown that if a trans person is allowed to transition and they have gender dysphoria and they have the support of at least one family member, their likelihood of attempting or committing suicide drops significantly. It is very similar to depression. You also said nobody chooses to detransition from cancer. Tons of people have regret whenever they go through treatment for cancer. Getting chemotherapy and
No! Why wouldn't you focus on the other thing? Why would you focus on the depression? No, why would you go down the cancer route? Oh no, you took, that wasn't even like a choice. You didn't even have the option to fuck that up. Why would you do this? Oh no. Oh, you picked the wrong one.
Radiation is miserable. A lot of people get bullied into it by their families because their families don't want to see them gone. I'd say there's probably a higher amount of people who regret, per capita, who regret getting treatment for cancer because of how terrible the side effects are than there are people who willingly get like hormones to transition or go through any other surgeries they would go through and then end up regretting that.
But clearly, we need to take these processes very seriously.
It is taken seriously.
The thing is, there has not been a wide range of research done on transitioning.
There has been.
Especially amongst so you're saying there's been a wide range of research amongst underage people.
Okay, real quick. Also, this is also something else, okay? Trans issues are like, this is like some cutting edge shit. Do not ever come into these debates and pretend that we know so much about trans athletes or transitioning as a child. You don't transition as a child, actually get puberty blockers. Okay, a lot of this research is very new. There are not a lot of there might not be any big longitudinal studies related to like puberty blockers in kids and transition later on in life. This is all like very new stuff, okay? The important part for establishing these conversations isn't to try to say like, the science is on my side, like blah, 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 this is you're right, or I'm right, you're wrong, fuck off. The important thing is like, you should ask, the question should be like, well, you know, like what are the risks? Or I guess like, so when it comes to prescribing medication, okay, when doctors make decisions about things, okay, usually I don't think that the idea is that like this is right and this is wrong and suck my dick, okay? I think that usually most of the stuff you do in medicine is like, okay, well, if I prescribe this thing, what are the benefits and what are the side effects? Like that's how you look at a lot of things. And I think that we can probably apply that same mentality to looking at trans-related stuff as well, right? If we allow children to take puberty blockers, what are the benefits? What are the side effects, right? That's really the question. If it comes out to being that like 1% of children that take puberty blockers ends up regretting it, well, for the 99% that are quote unquote saved, that's probably like a pretty good turnout, right? So that would be the question. I don't think either side would disagree on this. It would just come down to debate on the numbers. Whereas if like 85% of children that took puberty blockers later regretted it, well, hold on, this probably isn't a good treatment now. This is probably something we need to investigate further, you know?
People getting surgery and transitioning medically when it's just now being brought to the surface.
It's not just now being brought to the surface.
You're saying we have research over 5-10 years that shows the impacts of getting medical treatment as a child when they grow up. You're saying that exists right now in a large way.
The reason why you don't think it has...
It's just recently being brought forward.
Yeah, I'll elaborate in a moment, but I want to say this first. The reason why you don't think it has is because this issue has only become extremely politicized very recently. But nobody is advocating, well, nobody with any actual credibility or any power is actually advocating for giving kids hormones. Now, you probably mix these up. A lot of people do. What's been advocated for and what has been tested and verified to be safe are hormone blockers. The point of hormone blockers is if you have a kid who has gender dysphoria or who thinks they might be trans, you have them visit a designated healthcare professional, usually their pediatrician, who will refer them to a therapist, and that therapist will figure out whether or not it is very likely they have gender dysphoria. Now, there's a huge issue. With a lot of trans people, it becomes a lot harder later in life for you to transition if you've gone through, let's say you're a trans woman. You are now in your 20s, and you are now finally able to get hormones and start transitioning because you are fully, let go of the reins, right? But you've gone through a male puberty. It is a lot harder for you now to go through that process to achieve the body that you want to achieve because you went through the wrong puberty. Now, puberty blockers are safe to give to kids that are, coming out of prepubescence into puberty, and it's been found that there are no negative side effects. These same hormone blockers...
That's not true. The bone density thing seems to be true, that you probably will have adverse impacts on bone density going forward if you do the puberty blockers sometime. Now, that's not like you're fucked, right? It's just something to be aware of. But the idea that there are no negative side effects, you should always be cautious. There's negative side effects to almost everything, right? Like taking fucking Tylenol, I think, or is it aspirin, can be like a blood thinner. You can like bleed out or die. Or like there's always potential side effects. Like female birth control can cause, can lead to a very, very small but somewhat elevated risk of blood clots. Right? There's like side effects to literally everything. Be very, very, very careful when you're like, there's no side effects to this treatment. Like, man, I don't know, man. Don't, when you play that card, you're setting yourself up for failure. Be careful.
Have been used on kids that are not transgender when they have thyroid issues or other issues that require them, and they've been found to be overwhelmingly safe. I believe it was found that they are more safe than ear infection medication, which we give kids all the time when they go swimming in the pool and they get pee in their ear when they're swimming around.
I want to concede something right now.
All right.
You're actually right. There has been a decent amount of research done on people post reassignment surgery. And I just had someone send it to me, actually. The most thorough follow-up of sex reassigned people research extending over 30 years and conducted in Sweden, where the culture is strongly supportive of transgender individuals, documents their lifelong mental unrest. 10 to 15 years after surgical reassignment, the suicide rate of those who had undergone sex reassignment surgery rose to 20 times that of comparable peers.
Is this by ncbi.nlm.nhi.gov?
Not that I can see here, no.
Can you link it to me?
Yeah. This is something I've heard before from other studies, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, you're gonna send it to me on Discord?
Oh no.
I'm sending it to you on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Remember, I'm a boomer. I don't know how Discord works.
Yep, I've seen this one. So I've actually seen this study plenty, and it's been debunked overwhelmingly. So for starters,
Okay, so it doesn't agree with you, so it's been debunked.
No, you know what? Do you know who was actually? Do you know who was actually polled by this? Do you know who was actually polled in this study?
Who was polled by this?
This study polled parents, not the actual children, and those polls were taken online based on, and they there was no going to people's homes visiting parents. It was completely online. It was an online survey. It wasn't an actual well conducted study. It was terrible data collection.
I'm reading the methods right now. It contains discharge diagnosis, up to 7 contributory diagnoses. Wait, 1 minute, sorry. Never mind. So it's got national risk.
Oh no, he's on a studies to watch out for fucking Google Doc. Oh God, oh no. That goddamn... The 2 most prolific researchers of our time, NCBIH or whatever. What is it? National Bureau of Institute of Health or whatever? National Center. No, it's National Center for Biotechnology Information. Fuck these abbreviations. And et al. Okay, those are the 2 most prolific researchers of our time. Watch out for them. All right. Destiny, Mouthy Buddha. What? Zeno responded by giving the critique of the ROG study, which seemed about transitioning, ostensibly because it was right below the critique of the Swedish study on Vosh's doc. Oh, whoops.
Registers.
Did they just take this back?
That particular study has become a laughingstock among much of the scientific community.
Okay, why do you... He uses very aggressive language for what sounds like a fairly chilled out conversation. Now, I might just end up being wrong on this because people are just so stupid, you guys included. You can't tell the difference, okay? And apparently people think that if you shout at one person, you shout at everybody because people accuse me of this. In my perfect world, I think you should match the person's energy, okay? If somebody wants to get into a screaming match with me, I'll do it. I love that. It's fun for me. But if somebody's trying to have like a chilled out conversation, I'll have a chilled out conversation. That's fine. Not everything has to be like a fucking screaming match. I think it's really important to match the other person's energy. So like with Demon Mama, right? Because the thing is like, I'll have a polite conversation with someone and be like, oh, you're rude to everybody. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, well, look at Demon Mama. What? You were rude. It's like, well, yeah, of course I'm matching her energy because she's a fucking piece of shit. I'm going to be a piece of shit back, right? But I think that like if the other person is being relatively chill, I think you have to match that energy because if you come over the top, I think you end up looking like a debate bro, or you end up looking like really aggressive for no reason whatsoever.
I've seen it a million times.
Like, why would you say that? Oh, God.
I'm not going to take your word at it because you were just telling me that you have a bunch of studies that show people's suicide rates drop. You can go pick those up while I'm reading how this was done.
Absolutely.
Let me pull out the Google Doc.
Here we go.
I'm not seeing anything in here about being an online study. If anything, it's suggesting that they were interviewing people.
Uh-oh.
And
It was a survey that was taken online.
Uh-oh.
And it was also extremely biased. I didn't want to bring this one up because I don't know how much you would agree. But the survey, I believe, was hosted on a very well-known like anti-trans website as well.
Oh no.
And there was no strong verification to determine whether or not the people taking the surveys were like real. And it was also meant to survey parents, not the actual trans people. I just sent you one of many studies that validate that. Oh, here's a good one here. I can send this one as well. Most notably, strong parental support decreases the likelihood of a suicide attempt within in the past year from 57% to just 4%. that is a massive decrease in the likelihood of suicide for an individual who is transgender who has family support. The data seems to overwhelmingly suggest that support from a family member or a friend.
Now, is this studied adults or children?
This study... No, it's the right one. Hold on. Someone messaged me. This study specifically... Here, I can actually check right here. Analysis...
This is the thing. I am open to hearing this kind of stuff, but the research I have personally seen and the research that... I have seen over the years as I've gone over this topic, it's not something I'm particularly into right now and researching right now, has been highly negative towards the surgeries. If that's changed, if you have proof that it's different, I am willing to consider that and look at that. But this is certainly not the topic I came on here to talk about, and you've been dragging me down rabbit holes of subjects that are not even contained in this book every single time you bring up a poem.
I apologize. Listen, I'm very eager. I'm very excited. I'm having a good time. I'm sorry if I get a little bit overzealous, but I felt like perhaps there was a reference there to trans people because you talked about essentially gender non-conforming people.
Not even a little bit.
Okay,
it's
cool.
It's not gender, it's just, they're... If you are a guy who isn't necessarily like super masculine, maybe you like your craft beers and art instead. I wouldn't consider him gender non-conforming. That seems a little bit weird.
I mean, that's what it refers to. The idea is that you typically don't conform to most gender roles. Like, have you ever heard of I'm curious, have you ever heard of a femboy?
Why?
I've heard of your catboy, femboys. Yes, I have.
Yeah, like femboys can be cisgender, but that doesn't mean they're gay or not. Well, it doesn't mean they're trans or gay or anything like that. They can be totally straight, but they just like to be. They like to wear the thigh-high socks and the short-cut little shorts and everything, and they just dress very feminine.
Sure.
Look at this base battle cruiser. Oh my god.
The point of this poem was to say if you want to be feminine, you can be feminine. If you want to be masculine, you can be masculine. There are a lot of aspects of today's culture that, would you agree, kind of reject and demonize traditional femininity and masculinity?
Perhaps, yeah, depending on the space you're in. I've met plenty of people like that.
Yeah, so it's like, For example, this is a bit of a random one, but the other day I was on YouTube. I was on the YouTubes, and I was watching this deep dive analysis of High School Musical's Sharpay, and how she's actually the victim in the story, but it was a time, and I remember this when I was growing up, the idea of being traditionally feminine was really demonized. Like, you wanted to be a tomboy, you wanted to be the girl that dressed a little more plain and was the girl next door, because all of the girls in movies that were super feminine were demonized. There was the fact that she wore pink skirts, the fact that she had the little dog with her, she had the long blonde hair, she just loved everything sparkly. And constantly in the show, they would mock that and make her the villain for having these super, just quite frankly, feminine.
Why are we vaping on stream now, guys? Not good.
Tropes about her. And, you know, you can even see this with the bimbo movement on TikTok, where you have girls saying, hey, if I want to walk around and be like Legally Blonde, if I want to be a bit of a bimbo, why are you guys rejecting and saying that can't be my aesthetic? Why are you people saying that that's wrong or bad? So I think that, you know, I was just kind of making a point to touch on, no, if you want to fall into this, that's okay. That's it. It's not a highly politicized point saying you have to be feminine as a woman. It's saying there's been some pushback in our culture against traditional femininity and masculinity in kids. It's okay to be these things. That's fine. And once again, I don't think you disagree with that. So you tried to make this a debate about transgenderism, a topic which I will admit I am not particularly well versed in. I'm not going to pretend I know all the studies. I don't. Yes, on surface, it's not.
Lauren Southern rhetorically is being very intelligent here. She realizes that, like, she's not fully fucking briefed on all of these trans issues, which I wouldn't expect most people are. And notice how she frames him as being the bad guy. Like, why are you trying to drag me into a debate about trans people? I just wanted to talk about my book. Like, that's what you brought me here for. It's rhetorically effective to make him seem like the kind of like aggressive debate bro.
Something I think is good to put on kids. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's not what I came on here to debate you about, and that's not a point I was making in this book. You've got a very neat trick of making every single poem in here and every single topic in here about a topic you want to debate me on that I'm not talking about.
But don't you think that if I wrote a book that was very similar to this, and I wrote, it's okay for you to identify however you like, you don't have to be masculine, you don't have to be feminine, knowing my takes on these issues, would you not think that perhaps I was alluding to it being okay to be transgender, even if you're a kid?
If that's all you were saying, I wouldn't care.
That it's okay to be trans as a kid?
If you were writing it's okay to be trans as a kid, that would be a highly politicized point, the same way that if I were writing, you know, you have to be feminine. We know these are politicized arguments. There's almost no one in the right-wing sphere or conservative sphere of politics that are saying kids should be transgender and should be taught transgender politics. And there's almost no one in the left-wing, more progressive realm of politics that is saying all men have to be masculine and all men have to be feminine. So I'm not saying either politicized side of things.
Okay. Do you want to move on to G? This one's a bit faster. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. So G is for groupthink. It's easy to accept what those in crowds believe. But if they're wrong, it means more people who will grieve. History has told us...
You can't possibly argue against this one. It's a good message. Groupthink is bad. We should avoid it. How could you... Oh, God. Oh, no.
...that folks are often led to throwing out their reason and trusting mobs instead. Groupthink is a nasty and quite well-hidden trap. When you first step in it, you might not feel it snap. It's not that it's wrong to trust in other people, but think for yourself so you don't follow them to evil. So, what did you mean by that?
I really like to think you don't have a problem with that.
No,
I really like to think
I don't necessarily. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
You know, if a group of people tell you to jump off a bridge, don't just jump off a bridge because the group's telling you to do that. If there's a bunch of people on a political bandwagon, whether it be political or social, don't just do something because lots of people are doing it. Think for yourself. Maybe they're all doing it for good reasons, but sometimes crowds do things for bad reasons.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Would it be presumptuous of me to, or perhaps overbearing of me to ask if you have any examples of like a political bandwagon that you've seen people jump on?
I mean, any sort of totalitarian bandwagon in history. Nazism, communism. You know, I'd even suggest the MAGA movement. Don't join a MAGA movement just because it looks exciting and lots of your friends are wearing red hats. Think about it.
Lauren is hardcore gunning at the center here with her rhetoric. Oof. Notice how she even gives examples of like Nazism, the MAGA movement. She hits the communism meme to like tap on her people on the right. But like, oof, she's super guns for the center here. How does Xander Hall counter this without coming off as a deranged lefty?
Think about whether you support the policies. Think about what you really believe deep down. Black Lives Matter. Don't go protest with them unless you understand why you're doing it, unless you understand the cause behind it. And maybe at the end of the day, you decide you do want to join that. Maybe at the end of the day, you think it is for a good reason, but don't just do it because all your friends are going there, or because it seems like everyone's doing it on Twitter and Instagram and celebrities have told you it's good.
Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, tend to perhaps stop thinking as much and maybe join into a group that they feel comfortable in, and sort of they're looking for some kind of belonging in a group, and that's what pushes them into wherever they end up going, whether it be left or right. There are a lot of people like that, so I do.
You know, I had friends that were posting the black square thing, and I just, because I saw it, I knew they weren't particularly involved in politics, and I knew they likely didn't know much about it, and I just messaged them and be like, hey, so what's the black square for? And they could not give me. They were like, oh, I support this Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What does it stand for? And they just could not give me a succinct answer. You know, they didn't bring up police violence. They just said, oh, it means you're not a racist. It means, and I'm like, no, there's so much more to these movements and this symbolism that you have to understand. And I don't mind if you post it and you have a deeper thing to it, like, hey, I'm posting this square, and also I'm going to my local community and I'm going to start talking about how we can bring in police reform, how we can bring in, I'm going to stop the violence.
I'm sorry, guys, but for people like no one does this, dude, people post random dumb shit on social media all the time when they have no fucking idea what the fuck any of it is about. My favorite threads on Reddit were somebody saying shit like, what does defund the police even mean? And then somebody shows me like, when we say defund the police, we don't mean defund all the police. We mean reallocate some funding to like social services. And then another lefty will show me like, wrong. Actually, we mean defund all the police. And then someone will show me like, no. We're just talking about like demilitarizing the police. Like we can allocate money to social services too, but that's not what they like. And then they'll start arguing with each other over like, what the fuck? And then people are like, oh, I don't know. I just put defund the police because I guess, I don't know. I like black people. Like,
rally against gang crime to try to make this a more peaceful city. I'm actually doing something that affects change, but I see so many people just posting. It's like when people put the flag filter on their Facebook, and it's really irritating when people don't know what they're supporting and there's no real action behind it. And once again, I'd like to think you'd agree with that.
No, I actually don't necessarily disagree with that. I think something that I find interesting is I feel like perhaps there's a difference between like people on Twitter adding like the little thing to their name because they just want to lend some support, or at the very least virtue signal support, and someone joining like a movement and participating in that movement because they want to feel like they belong, or because their friends are doing it, because they see a lot of people doing it. And I guess at the end of the day, I'm a consequentialist. I prefer when people have the...
Stop, please stop saying this. Stop bringing up normative frameworks for ethics in normal fucking conversations. Please stop, please stop. I regret ever talking about philosophy. I should have made these sub-only streams before everybody copied my fucking words. Please stop. We do not talk about any level of ethics outside of fucking jerk-off philosophy conversations, okay? Fuck.
The right reasons to do what they're doing. But if it results in good outcomes, it's typically not something I'm going to get as upset about, or
there are so many problems with this type of thinking.
Unless I'm seeing something bad happen because of it. I encourage people to think for themselves. But if people don't think for themselves and they engage in a movement that's overall causing good to happen in the world, I don't really see it as like a huge problem. But don't get me wrong. I think encouraging, self-reliance and thinking about what you're doing for the right reasons is important.
I see what you mean. I've become, in the last few years, largely anti-movement and cause in general. That's going to sound weird initially saying it, but I've found over the years, like even in kind of right-wing circles, people would get into these movements and when they'd try to justify their behavior, the things they were fighting for, the arguments they were having online, they'd say, this is for the movement. This is for the cause. And I'd ask them what the cause was, and they'd be like, well, the cause is progressivism, or the cause is Trump. And it seemed that the cause or the movement had become the cause. It was kind of a self-creating, there was no real people behind it, right? To me, if the cause doesn't actually come down to affecting and helping real people, and you're just doing it, I'm doing this for Black Lives Matter. So you're acting for the cause. You're not actually doing it for someone's life. I'm doing this for the MAGA movement. There has to be real people, real community, real family that you are fighting for change. Whether it be, I have someone in my community that is deeply affected by gang crime, and so I've joined some sort of movement to fight against gang crime because my community and people I care about are impacted. Whereas I think a lot of people join movements and causes not because they are connected to their family and community, but rather the opposite. They are disconnected from their family and community, and they have this much deeper desire for just a narcissistic purpose in life. They need something to motivate them, and they need something to drive them and to justify them being in politics. So it's all for the cause. The cause, guys, we got to fight for the cause. And they have nothing actually tying them to why they're fighting for change, which I worry about and I think is unhealthy.
What do you think would be the biggest difference between you and I and your average person who goes to a Black Lives Matter march or puts the little the flag or the block in their Twitter name? What would you, just off the top of your head, guess would be the biggest difference between you and me and them?
I'd have to know them on an individual level. I'd have to know their motivations for doing that.
Well,
if there's someone who's doing it just because they saw a lot of other people do it, I would say the difference is I have really delved into the subjects that I care about to the point of, flying over to Europe to go investigate the migrant crisis from the other side with the traffickers and seeing it firsthand. Also, and I will say, when I was initially involved in politics, I think I had a bit of this problem where it was just for the cause and I hadn't built a lot of community and real things that I cared about, which I've changed now. And part of the reason I'm in politics is because I really care about my family, I care about my community, and I care about their future. And that's where most of my life is focused. And I worry about two groups of people. One group where they don't actually have anything real outside of this political world, and the reason they are involved in causes is just for the sake of feeling they have some purpose, and they enjoy the drama online, they enjoy the fights. It makes them feel justified in attacking other people, and the people who are just doing it blindly because they're scared of being socially rejected for not supporting these movements.
I don't think anyone's going to get socially rejected for saying nothing about it unless they're actively standing against it.
Because it happened to Chris Pratt. He said he didn't want to go to a Biden rally, and they tried to cancel him online.
Yeah, he didn't say nothing about it.
He said canceled for doing nothing.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to go there. Also, Chris Pratt had been canceled.
Oh, dude, this is such a bad take by Xander. There have been plenty of people that get called out for not making more. This is kind of the weird thing about being like a celebrity, because we looked at this where it was like if celebrities didn't make statements on like things related to BLM or the rights or whatever, they would be like condemned. We'd be like, why the fuck are you saying? And then if celebrities would make statements on things, people were like, why the fuck are you talking? You're a celebrity. Nobody fucking cares. It was like a really, really weird. Chappelle addressed this when he did his skit where he was like, the reason why I didn't say anything for so long is because I think the streets talk for themselves. They don't need a celebrity, blah, blah, blah. But even Chappelle had to address this when he came out and he did his, it's called like 831 or however long Floyd, the guy was on Floyd's neck. Yeah, the silence is deafening me meme. Yeah, this is just not true.
Canceled
the J. Cole diss.
Certainly more valid things before that. However...
No, but you just said people aren't being canceled for not doing anything. When I have friends...
They're not being canceled for it, but they'll get called out for it.
That are Instagram influencers, totally non-political, that said they got hundreds of messages from people saying, how dare you haven't posted a Black Square, you haven't posted anything about the rallies in the States, how dare you? It's the idea that no one is getting canceled for just standing back and saying nothing is just untrue. It's untrue.
Maybe it's because I'm like a political creator, and when I think about getting canceled, I think of much more virulent, hardcore things and like getting a few mean messages. When I get canceled for anything, it is way worse than like what those people probably went through. And I'm a comparatively much smaller figure.
Okay. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, we got to move past the this meme, okay? Cancel culture is fucking AIDS, and that shit you need to bully the fuck out of people that engage in it, okay? Because it's not just like random shit anymore. It's like, wait, Luddic Church Expedition. Oh, they're going to my colony, you fucking cucks. I can't get back there in time. Cancel culture is AIDS, okay? Stop supporting people that engage in it. Don't do this shit. Cancel people for good reasons, not because they tweeted out some stupid joke fucking 12 years ago.
The motto of Black Lives Matter is literally, in some cases, silence is violence. So either you support us or you are a violent individual. You are not allowed to not agree with us, or you are a violent individual.
Silence is violence means that if it comes to it, if you are not willing to step up when the only option is support this movement or don't, when that is the only option at the head of it, when an election comes around or whatever, that if you are willing to do nothing, then you are essentially allowing the status quo to continue, and the status quo is bad.
Right. So my point is, people will get in trouble and will be attacked for not participating in these political
That's
movements.
not referring to just making your screen, like posting the little black screen on your Instagram. I didn't get in trouble for not doing that. I don't think I posted like the little...
That's because you talk about this in all other realms, right?
Actually, no, I get like tons of shit from people that are like very progressive. I get canceled by the left constantly, and I didn't...
Wait, so did you get in trouble or didn't you get in trouble? Wait, that was the weirdest one, or maybe he means, well, if we're being... That sounded weird. I understand what he's saying. But he's like, I didn't get in trouble for this. She's like, where? Oh, maybe that's because he's like, no, I get in trouble for this all the time. Wait, which one was it? But maybe he means he didn't get in trouble for not posting the black square thing, but he does get in trouble for it otherwise, I guess.
Did not get a single hateful message whenever I didn't post like a black screen on my Instagram or Twitter. Not a single message.
Okay, well, I know people who did. And ultimately, this G is for groupthink bit. I know you just said you don't really mind that much if people, as long as they're doing good things, even if they don't understand why they're doing good things, it doesn't matter that much. The problem is, when people don't think about why they're doing good things, they can easily be turned to bad things. And if people's understanding of the politics they're supporting is fickle and not very thin, that makes long-term success of whatever your political ideology is extremely hard. And it also makes them easy to just turn to the next group, whatever
That's also true, yeah.
Whenever that's popular. So I really think you should care a lot more about people who are just doing good things without thinking about it. Because those are the people that are all...
If you guys remember from your edgy atheist days, I know I've got a lot of edgy ex-atheists here, hopefully. I'm an edgy ex-atheist, or an ex-edgy atheist. No, I'm still edgy, so I'm an edgy ex-edgy atheist. I used to be an edgy atheist, I'm still edgy, but I'm not an edgy atheist. Well, actually, I kind of am. Fuck religion. There was a famous quote that we all wheeled out to fight with religious bros, where we would say, I'm gonna find the exact quote so I don't butcher it. With or without religion, good people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion. From Steven Weinberg. Edgy. And it's true here too. If you've got like well-meaning people blindly following ideologies, they can be led down some bad paths. Yeah.
Ultimately usually utilized by dictators and tyrants.
True. If you look at my most recent YouTube videos, a significant amount of them are me going after people also on the left who do that same kind of thing. I criticize this plenty. People looking for a group and they join into, say, like leftism, like when I am a leftist, and they do it because they want community, right? And I criticize that plenty. But I think, because you brought up a few anecdotes of people that didn't, like, they put the little black block in their thing, or they had the flag, or they said BLM, but when you asked them, they didn't know what the issues were. I think one of the biggest differences between us and them that you have to remember is that you and I are media-trained public figures that make our livings off of advocating for the issues that we care about. A lot of these people are just your average Joes. They maybe have a following on Twitter, but they aren't these political figures or political activists that dedicate their lives to learning about and advocating for these issues.
Correct, which is why it is such a problem that we have created a society that forces everyone to have a political position on every single topic. We want celebrities have to be an advocate for every single political issue, every single election, even though, once again, they're not experts in it. The average person has to speak up and has to be an advocate.
This is kind of true. It used to be, I remember back in the 2000s, especially relating to people like Leonardo DiCaprio, like our memes were that like, fuck off, we don't care what celebrities think about political issues, fuck you. In fact, that's kind of the foundation of the Ja Rule joke. People don't know where any of these jokes come from. I'm convinced they just repeat them without understanding. The Ja Rule joke was Chappelle basically saying that, like, I don't care what the experts say, I want to know what Ja Rule thinks, because he's making fun of like celebrities commenting on social issues, right? Why the fuck do you care about what some celebrity says about? But nowadays it's expected. Every celebrity needs to be giving their opinion on these social issues. It's incredibly important to have like uniformity among all celebrities for these issues.
For all of these different issues that they could never have the time to properly investigate. And that is a lot of pressure. And this is something that is put on us from a very, very young age. And you have kids that are doing climate marches that have no idea what any of the data, any of the information on this is about. And they're just doing it because they've been told that it's their job to save the world. No, it's their job to be learning, basic life skills in school. And they're being used as political pawns in so many cases. And this is ultimately the problem I'm pointing out in my book, is all of these people that are either doing it because they want to look good or are legitimately being used as pawns by political manipulators.
Okay.
When we don't have the time to understand every topic fully, quite frankly. Some people can be advocates for topics that they understand very deeply and not be political advocates, of course, but we're being asked a lot of as humans these days. Too much.
I think that political disaffection is one of the biggest problems that we could possibly have in our world. I think being politically aware of what's going on and having a side that you support, ideally the side that makes the world better, is extremely important. I don't care what age you are, you should have a fair understanding of what's going on in the world and understand how to make the world better and probably have a desire to make the world better. Obviously with climate change, that's an issue that concerns everybody. So having kids engage in those marches, they're learning about climate change in school. This is an important issue. You learn about how the climate works in school. This isn't like even comparable to an issue like the trans thing, right? This is a distinct
trans
thing you would learn in elementary school. You learn about climate and climate change.
Well,
this is something that you should care about.
I disagree with you. I think the problem isn't that not enough people want to change the world. It's that not enough people want to change their communities. Everyone wants to look good by saying they're going to change the world. Everyone wants to look good by holding a sign and saying end violence, but that doesn't actually do anything. Going in and helping your communities, building up your communities, volunteering, that kind of stuff changes things, but it doesn't look good. You can't make it, you can't hashtag it and get tons and tons of likes.
Sure.
How did you get exploded, you dumb fuck? It's a fucking space station, you fucking moron.
But no one actually wants to focus on their community and real things because that's not popular.
Yeah, sure. So the reason why you can't think of a lot of examples of people doing community efforts to make their community better is because those things don't get a lot of traction. But I myself focus a lot on community organizing. I want to do canvassing for candidates that I support back in Florida eventually when I have enough money for it, when the midterms come around. These things don't make headlines. You probably wouldn't end up seeing it all that much. But if you've looked into it, I've definitely looked into it. Every single city, every local area that I can think of has like a local DSA chapter. They have clubs at universities and colleges that work together to try to lobby their local governments for certain policies, like climate related or with social issues. There's plenty of community activism that happens. But you can't ignore the worldwide scale.
For sure. Let's focus on everything else, because you've just suggested that people aren't political enough. They are too disaffected. Once again, I really, really disagree with that. We are at the point where we have literally politicized pillows. We have gone, you have the My Pillow guy versus...
Okay, to be fair, I don't think it's pillows that are being politicized. I think didn't the CEO of that company make some really fucking insane? I'd have to go back and look, but I thought that guy was saying some crazy shit.
That kid from Parkland, I can't remember his name. He was going to make his own.
Xander Hall's going to agree with her on this. Oh no.
we politicized pillows. If you don't think we have got so much politics coming from every realm, you can't even eat cereal. Why is my ice cream yelling at me about Black Lives Matter? I just want to buy a damn taco without being told about how I'm ruining the environment or affecting the world. Like, corporations have literally become full-on. They've embraced this because they know they can get sales out of it. It's every single aspect of our lives. Like, no, we need to actually live. We need to have a little bit of real world perspective as well.
Do you think perhaps there is something to notice when you see that what you're getting upset about right now are messages on packaging for food and Twitter battles between the surviving victim of a school shooting and the MyPillow guy, and then when you have BLM activists out there trying to advocate for justice or reform of the justice system and systemic top-down changes to help improve the socioeconomic position of Black people in this country?
Christ.
Does it seem like there's maybe a disparity between what you're upset about here and how you feel political disaffectedness doesn't harm the world, and what people that are politically involved, mostly on the left, are talking about, the issues that they're concerned about?
Oh, I've seen the memes where it shows, hey guys, we've changed the voice actor on The Simpsons to be representative of Black people, and like the Black Lives Matter Wojak, like all we wanted was systemic change. Like, we don't want another rich Hollywood guy being hired or another corporate platitude. We're getting tired of this, and I agree with that. These issues are ridiculous, and it's crazy that people are talking about them so much, and I'm probably a bit of part of the problem there, because I see it and I get frustrated and add to the conversation. And there are people on a community level that are trying to make change that are getting ignored because we've politicized everything and so much useless stuff. We're talking about the problem with kids' books that are completely harmless and politicizing and having debates over that, which you don't even disagree with. Instead of talking about real issues. Because we just need content. Everyone needs content, don't they?
Sure. So that, I don't know what that has to do with what I just said. The argument that I was making is I think that being disaffected from politics is harmful, and that everyone should care about making the world better, making their community better as well. And when you brought up ways in which people are too involved in politics, what you brought up was political messages on food packaging and Twitter fights between public figures, and not real issues that are going on. It seems like what would you say affecting you right now is like a huge systemic issue that's like really affecting your life very badly?
The lockdown of countries and not being able to see my family.
Okay, that's something that people should care about.
Okay. When people say that, like, lockdown... Okay, so I've noticed people do this, okay? People will be like, lockdowns don't work. Well, are you sure? And they're like, find me a place where a lockdown has worked that's comparable to America. And we'd be like, well, what about, like, South Korea or Australia and New Zealand? It's like, those places are islands. It's not the same. Where do you think the coronavirus in the United States came from, you stupid fuck? Do you think people walked from fucking China to the United States in order to get people sick with the coronavirus? You fucking moron. They fucking flew in on goddamn airplanes, you stupid fuck. I don't understand this idea that, like, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, these aren't like the United States. Those are islands. Okay, and I'm pretty sure last I checked, Australia has more than one fucking airport. I'm pretty sure New Zealand has more than one fucking airport. I'm pretty sure South Korea has planes. Okay, people can get to these places the same as they can, especially a place like South Korea. Holy shit. People fly in from all over the world to go to some of these places. Christ. Sorry. Fucking so stupid.
Coronavirus. We want to get past this coronavirus shit as soon as possible. We want to distribute vaccines. Is this not a political issue that people should be caring about? Because that's something that affects your life directly.
I want to quickly go back to your point. My point is that people are not disaffected. They are involved in politics, but they are being brought into it and involved in the wrong ways. Rather than on a community level, rather than where they can actually make change, they're being distracted by all of these ridiculous platitudes, which I think ultimately we agree. We've just been talking past each other. So I'm saying people are not disaffected from politics. They are being used and abused by politicians and corporations to talk about issues that make them popular, and they're following groupthink to talk about useless issues instead of thinking for themselves and going and involving themselves in politics that are actually really helpful on a community level. So once again, I think we agree there. we're just talking past each other.
I'm absorbing everything that you're saying here. Okay, I'm internalizing it. I promise. I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like. At least here in America, because I'm most aware of American politics. I know you've traveled the world quite a bit. You're from Canada. You're currently in Australia.
Oh, shit. What if the coronavirus is like fucking vampires? And it can't travel over water? I didn't even think of that.
For me, here in America, I'm pretty sure most people, or at least a significant amount of people, don't even vote. That's a big issue to me. That is political disaffection at work. And to make it even worse, there are people who are going to decide who they vote for in 2024 or in the midterms based on Dr. Seuss getting canceled or because the My Pillow guy is far right. These are going to be issues that people decide to vote on because it's the culture war. I'm sure you've heard of it.
You know
It's
what?
the culture
Listen,
war.
no. Cancel culture is a problem for everyone because people are literally afraid of losing their jobs, losing their friendships, losing their reputation.
And that's political.
Cancel culture. And this is not a right-wing issue either. I just saw Lindsay Ellis publish a big, huge critique of cancel culture that was really phenomenally done from the left. This is not cancel culture is an issue that is affecting people on every level.
I feel like
it's not is to ignore working class people that don't get in the media, that get fired from their jobs for posting a meme they thought was funny that
You're
a
pivoting.
coworker decided was sexist. This is you're
Hold on.
ignoring
My
cancel
megaport
culture
got
is a
disrupted.
serious
Yeah, you're pivoting.
issue, is what my point is.
You pivoted into an argument that I feel like supports mine.
Fallacy,
if cancel
fallacy,
culture is so
committed.
dangerous and it can harm everybody, people can lose their jobs because they tweet out a joke. Is that something that we shouldn't be politically disaffected about? That people should be like, okay, maybe we should perhaps look at issues like this a little bit more nuanced and maybe not engage in dogpiling? Because when you advocate and say that political disaffection is good, then you're essentially advocating for the enabling of cancel culture.
Real quick, just to explain what's going on in this conversation, this is a classic conservative liberal divide. I'm speaking US here. Classic conservative liberal divide. Conservatives tend to be far more community focused and liberals tend to be far more worldly focused, and it causes this weird disconnect where they can't really talk to each other. Both sides make good points, but like a lot of conservatives, so if we take like the standard left-leaning position of like conservatives are evil, they hate everybody, blah, 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 what conservatives genuinely advocate for is, well, a nice conservative will say like, well, I just think communities should take care of themselves. I don't want the federal government coming in and making us do things a certain way. We should all be able to take care of ourselves on a local level. Whereas like left-leaning people are a bit more worldly or a bit more globalized with their outlook. So we keep hearing this point. I don't think either of them are aware of it, but you keep hitting on this point over and over again where Lawrence Southern's like, listen, I think people should care about issues, but I think those issues should be like volunteering in their community. And Xander Hall is like, well, listen, I think that people need to be like very focused on like the national level scene because they vote on this stuff. Both of them are correct. They're missing each other here. They're not understanding the disconnection here.
Cancel culture has come as a result of the politicizing of everything. We're going to make pillows political. We're going to make ice cream political. We're going to make, every TV show we watch, we have to analyze on a political level and decide whether it's okay or not. I hate that, and that is also part of what has led to cancel culture and people who don't want any involvement in politics being dragged into it and analyzed on a scale of progressive ideology that in some cases they don't even understand. And
cancel culture has been around for a lot longer than even the internet has, but cancel culture as we see it today, especially nowadays in recent years, seems to be propagated mostly by the fact that everybody is inside, everybody's on the internet, nobody is able to go out and do things in the real world, so everything that happens on the internet feels like it's going to be the end of the world. Trust me, as a victim of cancel culture, I see the kind of people that go after me and try to cancel me terminally online, okay? I would say the popularity of...
I agree.
I would say the popularity of the internet is what propagates cancel culture the most. People on the right do cancel culture. People on the left do a shit ton of cancel culture. Most of those doing cancel culture are 14-year-olds with pit crew avatars on Twitter. Now,
I agree.
I feel like there is a nuanced conversation, very much like what you referenced Lindsay Ellis had before, that can be had about cancel culture. Political disaffection is one of those things that prevents people from having that conversation because then it becomes two-sided. You don't get, if you can move those politically disaffected people to a nuanced take on something like cancel culture, instead of it being cancel culture is good, take accountability for that joke that you tweeted back in 2009 that you need to be destroyed for, you need to lose your job, and cancel culture is the end of the world. Everyone is going to die. We need to stop it. Your life could be ruined at any second because of this or this, and it's never okay. It's going to become a two-way battle. No middle of the line that takes a look at it in a nuanced way because of all the political disaffection.
Okay. I'll agree with you there. I disagree to the level of. I think there are some people who are certainly politically disaffected, but I also worry about the over-politicization of everything and everyone. But I think what we're disagreeing here is what people are being politicized over and caring about being the wrong topics and the wrong conversations, and some people being left out of those conversations altogether. I think a big part of this, and this is what conservatives have been bringing up for a long time, is we can't really have that nuanced conversation about how we feel about cancel culture and ways to solve it. We can't have these nuanced conversations about politics when this cancel culture exists, so it's a self-perpetuating problem, because people are too scared of losing their jobs. People are too scared of ruining their lives over talking about politics. I have friends that have completely left the realm of politics altogether. They are never planning on partaking in it ever again because they got some crazy docs put up of them online, because they got canceled in some sort of political sphere, because they got in trouble with their employer for posting their political thoughts online, like a Gina Carano has gotten fired for posting her thoughts. As much as I think her take, comparing, I always think comparals to the Holocaust tend to be a little exaggeratory and silly and cringe sometimes, but lots of people make that take, left wing and right wing, and that's her thoughts on the issue.
Jesus.
And instead of immediately saying she's a bigot, let's have that conversation. No, she gets fired from her job. So if you're worried about political disaffection, making sure no one's allowed to talk about issues without being afraid of losing their job or being dogpiled by tons of radical communities is not a great way to do that. So we have to deal with the radical communities. We have to deal with the cancel culture, and we have to deal with the people who are constantly slandering anyone who tries to involve in politics and have nuanced conversations, which you have dealt with as well, and I have dealt with from yourself.
Yeah, so I think there's an elephant in the room that's also a pretty large propagator of this that I didn't necessarily want to get into because it's fairly complicated, but obviously capitalism is a big cause of this as well. Big corporations like Disney, if there's a lot of hubbub happening about someone like Gina Carano is not going to sit down and debate me on stream. I highly doubt it. I added her on Twitter, and she didn't respond. I would love to sit down and have a debate like what we're having now over the issues that Gina Carano was tweeting about. I think a lot of it is capitalism. These corporations are going to fire an actress that tweets about this thing that gets people upset. These companies, and they recognize that it's popular to be more progressive in this area, are going to advertise that progressivism in their products, their movies, their food, everything like that, packaging. And obviously the creators of these products are going to have their own political views, and they're going to build a following based around those political views. The Goya beans, the My Pillow, all of that's going to continue to happen when we have these industries whose main motivation is to make money. They're going to do whatever they need to make money. They're never going to go. They're never going to push the envelope too far, obviously, but they will go as far as it takes to make them money. So that seems like something more so to criticize about those industries and the economic system within with which we live, rather than like this intangible idea that kind of floats around the ether that we can't really stick with like a spear to figure out what exactly is causing it or who is propagating it.
Right. Comrade, can I say something about the problem of capitalism? One of the biggest issues I agree with you on all of this, actually. And one of the biggest issues that I've identified, certainly in the media sphere, is something that I'm working on an article on it right now, something I've dubbed systemic tabloidism, and how capitalism...
Remember, populists do not care about capitalism. If you are a lefty, stop thinking that like a Charlie Kirk or a Lauren Southern is going to like hardcore simp for fucking capitalism. They won't, okay? They will just as quickly disavow it as any fucking socialist or communist or whatever, okay? A lot of these people are kind of like anti-corporatism these days. Don't make that mistake of thinking that you're gonna get like an easy W on some shit like that, okay? Sorry, hold on, Jesus.
And dehumanization has been pushing journalists to divert all of the important...
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say capitalism. I should say more specifically corporatism. Most of these people will shit on big corporations and big corporate money or whatever, not necessarily capitalism. I'll be more clear there, actually, sorry.
Conversations we need to be having to kind of this just like horribly shallow cancel culture type conversation. You know, if you have all of these sociopaths or not all these sociopaths, some sociopaths and some people that are just dragged into their system of writing, creating clickbait, having to write 4 to 5 articles a day, having to find something to cancel, having to find some problem with society without any deep, nuanced view or perspective on it, because they constantly have to make money for the Huffington Post. They have to make money for the Guardian. They have to make money for the ABC, whatever it might be. And it's all become about profit and not about people. And it used to be also about tackling really big problems and powerful people in society. We need to talk about the problem with pedophilia and Prince Andrew. We need to talk about these issues with it's crime that's going on in government and politicians that are making sketchy deals to make their companies money and crony capitalism. But another aspect of systemic tabloidism is, while pushing people to just write clickbait, they also have realized they can only they can slander people, and slander makes them more money, and the more money they make, they have more money to defend from slander suits. But they can only slander people of a certain class, because otherwise, if you slander someone like Hulk Hogan, who can afford to make a sustained court case against you, your whole outlet will shut down like Gawker has. So what they've done is they've found a class of people that have lots of views, have lots of eyeballs on them, but don't have the same amount of money, and just happen to be in direct competition with the mainstream media, which is YouTubers, and they've made them the main target of all of their slander, harassment, saying we're horrible, horrible bigots, we're ruining politics, whilst ignoring these genuinely wealthy, powerful people. Because once again, it's about money. They know we can't sue them. They know we can't shut down their companies, because the average YouTuber's salary, you'd have to pay 3 years of it to go with the defamation case. And we need to address that. We need to address these problems.
Yeah, of course.
I agree. I am not this like hardcore, we need to have just a capitalist free market where you can sell babies heroin and have them working in your
of course,
bauxite mine for $2 an hour.
Yeah, of course. I feel like this was a bit of a departure from what I was talking about, but I feel like where you moved into, we have, but it's fun. But I feel like this goes back to the political disaffection. People are being sold what sells, and it's mostly not like serious political issues. How many people do you think, if you asked right now, know about the Uyghur genocide happening in China right now?
Oh my God.
Most people probably don't, because that kind of news doesn't sell. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that I want to fight against political disaffection. I feel like that's a huge problem.
So why do you guys not attack the media, who have been such a problem in this? This has been a completely largely, if you look at it, the conservatives have been the ones that have been battling with the mainstream media, saying these guys are lying, these guys are manipulating the
because
public.
When conservatives attack the mainstream media, they do it for the wrong reasons and from the wrong position. I attack the mainstream media.
Who decides what the wrong reasons are?
Investigations. You can have independent journalists that investigate these things. So when
I attack the mainstream media for slander, you think I'm doing it for the wrong reasons?
Can you give me an example of this?
So, let's say the New York Times falsely published that the Christchurch shooter donated to me, and this was republished in multiple different outlets. They then deleted their tweet, but the other outlets had already republished it, so they didn't correct it, and now tons of people think this actually happened. Is that something worthy of questioning the mainstream media for? So the
Christchurch shooter donated to a organization that I believe you worked with for Borderless, I think was what actually happened. And
no, none of that happened.
From my understanding,
which organization?
It was in Bulgaria. It was in Bulgaria. It was a Bulgarian militia that was searching for illegal refugees in the woods, and that organization was associated with actual designated white supremacist other organizations.
So this is the first time hearing of that, and that wasn't the claim.
I'm not claiming that you knew about that, but I'd already learned about that, and I knew of that. So I understand where you're coming from, because I'm pretty sure the Christchurch shooter didn't donate to you.
That's not even the claim the New York Times made, and I've never heard of that, and I feel like I would have heard of it by now if that were even remotely true.
Oh, was it Generation?
Maybe you can send that to me.
Maybe. Yeah, sure. I can whenever. if you want me to. I have to do it off
But
screen.
anyways, the point there is that they are spreading demonstrable slanderous lies that ruin people's lives.
Did they
not correcting it?
Did they correct it? Did they remove it from the article?
No, they did. They just deleted their tweet about it, and then all of these other publications had already shared it and shared the tweet and cited the tweet, and they never posted a correction. So it was never adjusted.
You're losing out on a lot of money right now. I know it's expensive, but the payoff.
No, I'm not. Do you know how much the average?
You can sue for that.
No, you can't. Stop saying that.
You can prove
anybody that says that like defamation and slander, you can't, dude. If you're a public figure, suing for that is like almost impossible. Okay, this is a fantasy created by YouTubers and Twitch streamers that it's so easy to sue somebody for defamation or slander. It is so the bar for this is so high as a public figure. Okay.
If you can prove that these media outlets knowingly lied about something you can objectively prove to be untrue, that there's no evidence anywhere that the Christchurch shooter actually donated to you, you can make quite a bit of money off of a suit for that.
You think I haven't talked to lawyers about this? Well, I believe the quote directly from my lawyer that I spoke to last month was, "Lauren, defamation is a rich man's game." And this is where the classism comes into it once again.
Oh, classism's a big issue. Don't get me wrong. I know about slap suits, but like, if you can.
Okay, let me ask you, Xander. Do you have 100K just?
No, I don't.
Around?
You're much larger than I am, though.
Well, then you couldn't do it either. I don't have 100K sitting around. I don't know how much people think YouTubers make, but people don't just have hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can throw away. Plus, in the States, you have to be able to prove malice. You have to be able to prove all these extenuating factors. So the media are able to get away with so many lies, so much dishonesty. I'll even point out the ABC here. I actually need to go and correct it today. I've been meaning to, because I accidentally believed the ABC, who shared a video of this dance crew twerking in front of a bunch of, like doing kind of a twerk style dance in front of the launching of a military ship. And the governor general was there and all these high up individuals in military. And the way they do these ships is these ships adopt the historic names of military boats that have already gone out.
How is the media held accountable here? There is no, when it comes to media accountability, there's no win for everybody. Basically, you've got two problems. Is that one, should the media be allowed to just publish whatever they want about people? Or two, should we be allowed to sue the media for whatever they publish? Now, the problem is that if we're allowed to sue the media, if we think they published something that's wrong about us, even if they were doing it in good faith, then what happens is you create like this chilling effect where the media now, let's say for instance you're the media and you come across a really big story about like a public figure and you think you might have a really big scandal, say the Matt Gaetz stuff, right? But now you don't know if you should publish it because maybe you're not 100% correct, maybe you're like 95% sure. But if you publish it and it's wrong, now you get sued out of existence. Okay, well, fuck, we're not going to touch those types of stories anymore. We're not going to hold politicians or big business people accountable because if we publish it and it's wrong, well, now we're fucked, right? This is why the courts, I think, generally in the United States, the courts after New York Times v. Sullivan sides with the media here when it comes to criticizing public figures. So when you're criticizing a public figure, in order to prove like defamation or slander, you have to meet something called an actual malice standard. So not only do I have to prove that you published false information about me, I have to prove that you knew at the time of publishing that information was false, which is that's an unbelievably high bar to set. But the reason is because we probably should protect the media publishing these things because otherwise they're not going to publish anything about powerful people because they'll just be sued out of existence. What the fuck is this shit?
That sail, people who have died, ships that have been kind of sunk, or not kind of sunk in World War II. And the idea is when you give them the same name and rename them, the crews never die and they live on. It's a very important ceremony that occurs here.
I feel like this is like a really big pivot, but I looked it up right now and it does not seem like defamation suits are nearly as expensive as you made them out to be.
Okay, wait, can we get back to that?
Oh God, don't Google it. If you don't know, just shut the fuck up. You're never, ever suing a mainstream media publication. When you are a public figure, you're not going to win a defamation suit if they think that what they're publishing is actually accurate, right? You're never going to do it. Don't do it. Just don't do this, okay? This is why I was taunting that JF guy so much when he said he's going to sue me for $20 million. Like against a public figure, you're never going to meet that standard. It's not going to happen.
I just want to make this point here.
Okay, sure.
So I initially shared it and I was like, this is like, read your audience. This looks ridiculous. What are you guys doing? Everyone looks so uncomfortable there. Turns out Actually, the dance crew were the victims. They went to go hire an Aboriginal dance crew to do a kind of Aboriginal dance to open the ceremony. And the dance crew asked them, would you like a contemporary, more pop culture dance, or would you like a traditional dance? Whoever hired them said they wanted the modern pop culture one, so they did that. And the ABC went on to edit the Governor General watching when he wasn't even there, concocting this entire situation that make the dancers look horrible, that make it look like they're just disrespecting the Governor General and mocking this, when none of that occurred. And this happens on a daily basis, both towards the right-wing audience who will get outraged over it and a left-wing audience who will get outraged over it. And we cannot have proper conversations about politics. We cannot have any sort of real battle against the problems caused by the powers that be.
What?
When,
hold on, you're going on. You're gish
when we are getting
galloping.
so much misinformation.
No, don't say
We
the
are
G
getting
word.
much
Stop.
misinformation.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making. But sorry, go ahead with the defamation case, because I can show you the email from my lawyer quoting me 100K to 150.
Okay, maybe you have a bad lawyer. I don't know. I've never.
Oh, why would you do this? I'm cringing. Don't argue this point.
Sued anyone for defamation.
No, that's the average.
I've never sued anyone for defamation before, but it seems as though in most cases, whenever a news organization, a mainstream news organization, puts out a outright slanderous, easy to prove lie, typically they're held to account for that. Now, don't get me wrong, slap suits are a big problem. You're aware of like what a slap suit is, right?
Sorry, explain that. But I'm just getting over the. No, most mainstream outlets are not held accountable for slander, and it's so difficult cross-border. It is so difficult. Once again, you have to be able to prove malice. There's a statute of limitations, so if you don't do it within a year, you can't sue them anymore. There are so many extenuating circumstances that would not be included in what you just looked up in your Google search. I really would encourage people to look up a story, which surprisingly was finally covered properly by BuzzFeed, about a Polish family. I have to find the name. Polish photographer, BuzzFeed,
All right.
Metro. I'm just gonna find the article.
Okay, listen. All right, before you go on any longer, I'll take your word for it that these big organizations are able to get away with spreading blatant lies. But at least from what I have seen, especially with the New York Times specifically, I've seen them go back on articles that I've been involved in, because I had a pretty close involvement with this one, post something that was accidentally misinformation and voluntarily go back and change it once they were made aware. And it wasn't a big deal. They went back, they changed it. I think it had something to do with Philip DeFranco. This is typically what ends up happening. If there are cases where some person is lied about by a mainstream media organization, if I find out about it, you better believe me to get on top of that shit, okay?
You might be able to get retractions and stuff, but that's way, way, way different than suing somebody for defamation.
Big propagator of the idea that if you have a serious issue with someone, then you shouldn't have to lie about them in order to bring up that problem. But in most cases, it doesn't really seem like that's what happens in most cases.
Yeah, no, it's in most cases the media do not correct themselves and don't have to because people can't afford to. And if they did once or twice because you sent them an email, that's very nice of them. But this doesn't usually happen. I'm in multiple cases with media outlets right now. Luckily, in some cases, I've been able to find lawyers that are willing to do it pro bono, which is not common at all. But no, it's not simple, and I think anyone who does a little more research than surface level would find that. Sorry, I'm just trying to find one really important article here. Okay, here it is. There's a guy named Molodinsky. There was a huge BuzzFeed article about it, and he's a Polish man who had a ton of articles in the Metro, Daily Mail.
Hold on. The example you brought up.
Hold on. There is this major contemporaneous case, Destiny. There wasn't even much of a lie, and the kids still got settlements from multiple outlets. So first of all, getting a settlement is not the same as winning the case, although we could say that, well, if they did settle, maybe they were going to win the case. This case, though, this was really, really, really bad. This maybe, I could be wrong, I'm not a lawyer, this might be one of the few cases where you might be able to prove actual malice. Dude, the way that, was it CNN? The way that they edited these clips to make it seem like these high school kids basically like hunted down these poor American Indians and were making fun of them and scoffing at them. Dude, CNN fucked up. This was cringe as fuck, okay? Because the actual story and all the footage was like the exact opposite. Are these guys Nation of Islam? I'm trying to remember. But like these also this kid isn't a public figure. So it might be a different standard as well. Although I'm not sure if that counts as public figure or not if he's reported on the media. I can't imagine you can just make someone a public figure. But like, yeah, like they might have been black Israelites. Sorry, yeah. I'm pretty sure the actual story was the exact opposite, where these guys approached like the high school kids and shit. This kid is like 17. This might have been one of the few cases. This might have been one of the few cases where you could actually prove malice with the way that this was reported. Holy shit, this was so fucking cringe. Okay, there were black Israelites in the background, but the old guy was a Native American. Gotcha. Ugh.
ABC.
That's a story that every time I argue with my mom, I have to walk. That's one of those that I have to walk back immediately. Not walk back, but I was like, yeah, the media fucked up really big. Like, this was basically like 100% media propaganda to like make white people look bad or whatever. Because that's basically what that was. It was so cringe.
Apologizes for Australian Navy ship twerking video after dancers allege deceptive editing. The twerking dancing troupe who performed.
They apologized, but what I'm saying is this deceptive. Once that has spread,
hold on, Lauren. This always happens. Wait, this always happens
Lauren,
when I talk to people and they bring up these examples and I can't look them up right away. Thankfully, I have my chat here. But usually, when
dude, I feel like I'm listening to myself or Vosh or some like drip down, trickle down debateonomics.
I hear these examples and I can't look them up right away. Later, I'll go and I'll find out that these were accounted for. These things were apologized for. These things were amended. My point, but yes, I can't look them up at the moment.
In some cases, the apology does happen, which thank goodness. The unfortunate part is most people don't see the apology. And I've experienced this so much in my personal life. I had a huge article. I think it was by the New Yorker. I don't want to.
This is correct. My point was she's pretending the media just get away with outrageous lies and never has any consequences for it. This is not true. People get fired off for bad stories. That is true, especially over the Trump and the Russia stuff. There were like multiple people. There were heads that rolled over some of the bad reporting of that. That is true.
Exactly. I published all of the evidence of this, but they wrote an article alleging that I lied to individuals that I had in my movie Farmlands, and I took advantage of them, and it was really awful. It made me look very, very bad. Now, I sent them proof that this was untrue. I sent them all the messages with this individual that was in the movie that showed that she was overjoyed by her portrayal. She was so excited to talk to us about the farm murders. She couldn't believe how much attention and joy she was getting from it. And the article just said the complete opposite. Ariel, her name was, sent me an apology and said, "I'm so sorry, I can't believe I misreported this. Let's try to fix this." So we went back and forth for a month, emailing back and forth, and they refused to put in the article that it was untrue. And they said they would publish in letters to the editors my correction, and they even inserted in my correction, "It is Lauren's opinion that this is inaccurate."
All right.
It wasn't my opinion. It wasn't accurate. They published the letters to the editor. It was never seen by anyone. The original article was never corrected. It never went to print. It was just on a random webpage of the site you can never find. That's what usually happens.
So I assume you're referencing the quote from the lady whose father was killed on that farm in South Africa, right?
Correct.
From my understanding, the exact quote was that she felt exploited and that she hadn't been fully made aware of the purpose of the interview. She didn't know what your goal was or why you were asking these questions. And when she found out, she felt like she'd been exploited. And that was the quote that I saw.
We sent all of the private messages talking to her, which she was fully aware of what the interview was for. She loved the portrayal. She thought it was all great. And we sent these to the New Yorker, and they all apologized. They literally apologized to me for publishing what they had and not fact-checking with me, and said, yes, this was inaccurate, and then refused to publish the correction. They only published it on an unseen page said it was my opinion rather than truth.
Jesus.
Okay.
So that's, I can send you I've uploaded it to my Facebook and Twitter before, but I can re-upload it after this or send it to you after this if you'd like. But that's what usually happens.
Well, why did the lady say that she felt exploited then?
That's a very good question, and I would love to see what the actual questions were from the journalist, because I have done interviews with journalists where they have taken quotes of mine completely out of context, completely out of entirely different conversations, and put them in place of a narrative they've written beforehand, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened in this instance.
Okay. So what was the publication that you said?
I think it was the New Yorker.
It was the New Yorker. Okay, I'm not seeing anything from the New Yorker here. Every article that came up when I looked up Lauren Southern Christchurch.
Also, be very, very, very careful. If you're going to start talking about somebody else's personal experience, I would never expect to be able to do this on the fly, because they're just gonna. This is their lived experience. They're gonna know so much more about this than you will. Getting like stuck in this trap of trying to argue. So like before it was what her lawyers had emailed her about defamation. Now it's about like this particular thing where she's probably gone back and forth with the reporter about it. There's no way that on a single cursory Google search, even if they're lying about everything, you're not going to be able to disprove it. You got to be really, 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 really careful.
Donated money. All I see is the Christchurch gunman.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about that South Africa one. That was in the Daily Dot and the
Independent.
No, not the. Oh, maybe they said it too, but I can't remember what it's called. There was one other outlet that repeated it, and it was like direct. Oh, you know what? I've got an email to my lawyer here. But the point, anyways, we're getting off topic. Can we finish the book here? Because the point I was making is
refocus. We
can't have these nuanced conversations about politics until we deal with the people that are, quite frankly, controlling the narrative and controlling how people think, lying and misportraying and misdirecting
Jesus Christ.
What conversations the public should actually be having first. And until we hold these people to account, the public are going to be constantly pitted against each other, have people's views misportrayed to them, have people that are legit. I mean, look what happened to Bernie Sanders. There are so many people that are kind of those who want to criticize the establishment that could get completely torn down by biased media that are not addressed.
Hold on. It says here.
Oh no! Don't do this.
It's a quote. So what you're referencing from the Daily Dot is a quote saying that the Christchurch shooter had donated to your media company.
Why are you on this again? Oh God!
Not specifically to you.
No, he said he donated to my media company, and that is why he deleted the tweet. And even that isn't true. That he donated to a company I was affiliated with. The Rebel Media hosted the finance. The Rebel Media. Sorry?
The person that the Daily Dot interviewed lied about you. It wasn't the Daily Dot lying about you.
It was the New York Times writer.
The Roos?
It was the Kevin Roos.
Kevin
the New York
Roos.
Times writer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they interviewed him and he lied about you. As far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, to be fair.
Thousands of retweets. Yeah. Anyways, so these are just these statements that keep going out, are completely false and easy to debunk, but these publications, I've sent the Daily Dot, I've sent all these people to lawyers and asked about it, and they're like, there's no point. There's no point. The amount of time and the amount of money is not worth it, and it's unlikely, they'll just be able to say, there was no malice behind it. So it's fine.
Yep.
And they'll probably just ignore your messages. I've sent tons of letters to outlets. Some I'm pursuing a bit harder than others, and hopefully that will turn out, but defamation cases can take years, like 7 years.
And lots of resources.
They can be drawn out.
But by that time, people's reputations are ruined. And once again, you guys might think this is just a right-wing issue, but this ruins lots of people's lives that are normal people that have no political affiliations. And that's why I was bringing up that Polish photographer, Molodinsky, who had all these stories in the Daily Mail and the Daily Dot published about him, saying he lied about his community, saying he lied about another couple, calling them drunkards, that were on his sleigh that were almost running people over. It's a long story. You'll have to go read it.
I'll look into it.
I did a video called Sainthood for Sale on it. And he didn't leave his house for over a year after the article was published because his community hated him. He had to go to the doctors to get drugs for mental health issues. Like, it just ruined his life. And the prosecutors wouldn't even...
Dude, using people's names like that
I've talked about this issue a lot before.
Condescending.
I think, if anyone wants to learn more, there's actually a pretty good John Oliver segment about slap suits. He criticized, what was his name? Something Murray. He was the owner of a coal company, and when he criticized him, Murray levied a bunch of slap suits against him, thinking that they could drain all of his money and they wouldn't be able to afford to keep on defending against these bogus lawsuits. This kind of thing, Bob Murray, yes. This kind of thing does happen, and there is worth in criticizing mainstream media and these large companies. I think the problem is our capitalist system, but I think we're ready to move on to the final letter. Are you ready, Lauren?
All right, let's do it.
All right.
I'm excited.
The last letter is X. This is a hard one. I was thinking shit. What's she gonna...
You're skipping over patriotism?
I mean,
I'm excited for that.
It depends on how much. My main idea for patriotism isn't isn't anything crazy. It's just, would you, hold on, I'll just ask you, do you think if there's like a very, like a tyrant, that was another letter, if there is a tyrant in charge of your country, is it unpatriotic to say, criticize that tyrant, or to burn your country's flag, or to protest to try to make that country better? Is that unpatriotic?
Well, this was going to be my point, why I was excited to talk about it, because I actually think, arguably, throughout history, patriotism has been more of a left-leaning thing than a right-leaning thing. I, of course, portray it in a neutral term, but, you know, every single anti-government, aristocrat movement has considered itself patriotic, whether it be the Risorgimento, probably pronounced that wrong, the Italian radical left-wing patriotic movement, which was anti-Habsburg, anti-clerical, and if it happened today, we call it a post-colonial movement. The American Revolution, which of course, by the standards of the time, was going against the rule of a king at a time where, you know, absolute monarchy was a thing worldwide, and they were instituting a constitutional democracy, which was clearly a move to the left. The Viet Cong were explicitly patriots and nationalists, most liberation movements.
So what you're saying
I just wanted to make the point that patriotism is not some sort of relic from the right wing. So I didn't think. Yeah. So I'm surprised you actually didn't have a problem, and we didn't get into it. But I guess you thought that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, at least this is my opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I believe. I don't think patriotism has any left-right political bias. Personally, it's more of a. What I'm really curious about is it unpatriotic to do something like burn the American flag? Would that be an unpatriotic action?
I'd consider it unpatriotic, yeah, to burn the flag. Because, you know, the idea of patriotism is you love your country and the people in it, sometimes even over the government or the powers that be. It's about the people. And that flag, I'd like to think, is a symbol of the country and not necessarily the government. And that's been the case throughout all of these revolutions in history. The revolutionaries, liberation movements have waved their country's flags at some points, even while opposing the current governments. So I do think it's unpatriotic to burn your flag.
I completely disagree. I think that the fact that, at least, I know you're Canadian living in Australia, but I'm American. Here in America, I think that burning the American flag is the most patriotic thing you can do, because we're in a very privileged position where we have the right to criticize the government, which a lot of people in a lot of places in the world don't have the right to do. There are laws against burning the flag in a lot of other countries. Our veterans, our soldiers fought for our right to be able to criticize our government. And if that takes the form of our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression takes the form of burning the American flag, because we want to make our country better, and we are trying to demonstrate where we feel like the country is right now and how it needs to be improved, I feel like that is the most patriotic thing that you can do. Burning the symbol that represents your country.
Because the flag is supposed to be a symbol of the country, not necessarily the government of the day, as the flag stays the same throughout all of the governments.
Well, the government runs the country.
You know, it's not. I don't think so. I think a country is the people in it, and the government are just some people we have put in as organizers that are supposed to be responsible to us and not the other way around.
But when this doesn't have to just be referring to the government. You can also be criticizing the culture of your country or behavior or things that are happening.
If the flag were a symbol of just one government at the time, like they switched it and they're like, this is officially the flag of the Republicans, that would make sense. You know, if you went out
how many of these fleets do these guys have?
Burning a mega flag,
even if you
that makes sense to me. But to burn the American flag just seems like a cell phone.
Even if you were burning the American flag just for fun, just because you were like, I'm just gonna burn it.
Okay, here you go.
That action is patriotic
point
because okay.
I don't know. I think it's unpatriotic and dumb. Burning the presidential effigy, an effigy of the president, that may be patriotic if the president is being oppressive and horrible to the people, sure, but I disagree with you on the flag point. I think that's...
My reasoning for why I think it's patriotic to burn the flag is because you're exercising a right that is pretty unique to Americans, where you are allowed to burn the symbol of your country, because there's a lot of people that don't have that right. And America's all about freedom, exercising that freedom to do something.
So if people go in the street and start yelling the N-word, is that patriotic because they're expressing their right to do it? And they're in America and they have the right to do that.
America is pretty racist, so yeah, it could be pretty patriotic.
In the middle of Times Square, that is patriotism to you.
If America to you is about racism, then yeah, that would probably be pretty patriotic. It's a subjective thing.
oh, you think patriotism is
Oh,
subjective?
no.
Absolutely.
You don't think it's
Many people believe that
loving?
criticizing
You
the
don't- you
government
don't
is
think
unpatriotic.
Patriotism is loving.
It feels like a walk back when you start saying that, like, I think that this is X. And then somebody starts to challenge you on it. It's like, oh, yeah, well, of course, anything can be X. X is subjective. That feels like a walk back to me. Like, you're kind of like, you realize that, like, the point maybe isn't that good. And then you're like, oh, well, hold on one second. I need to use the restroom real quick.
Your country, wanting the best for your country and the people in it, because
Yeah.
I would argue that that's not
most people's
subjective.
opinion on it.
The word patriotism has a definition. The only thing that differs is how you think we should make the country better. And if you think that people, I don't think there's anyone, I mean, maybe, I don't think there's anyone that thinks they're making the country better by yelling the N-word in a public square to rile people up.
What is better is subjective. People who wish slavery would come back believe that there not being slavery is unpatriotic. So of course, if somebody believes that, they'd be going out in the street yelling the N-word.
Maybe I just disagree with you because I don't think either of those things make the country better. But would you agree that at least the definition of patriotism is wanting the best for your country and wanting it to be a better place? And this is why, in some instances,
I agree with that
can actually
definition.
consider Black Lives Matter activists, if they truly think, pursuing
Patriotic,
their reform of the police is going to make the country better, they can absolutely be patriots too.
Okay, yeah, we don't disagree there. But I believe that, like, criticizing your ability to have, like, freedom of speech, for example, criticizing the state of the country, the culture of the country, all of that is patriotic because one of the core, the First Amendment is about having the right to do that, to even criticize your right. The First Amendment grants you the right to criticize having the right to criticize the First Amendment. You can go back as far as you want with that one.
No,
I believe that's patriotic.
I don't disagree with you that you should. I know some people disagree with me on the right, but sure, I don't think you should be tackled and be pepper sprayed or put in jail for burning the flag or criticizing the country. I don't think that.
Because I know a lot of people who do believe that, but I'm glad you don't.
I would disagree with someone who argued that was improving the country. That's where I would go. Especially because I've also made the argument before that, sometimes you have to be offensive to make critiques of the powers that be and some of the social systems that be. That's been the basis of a lot of my political activism historically. And so I definitely wouldn't disagree with you there that sometimes you do have to be offensive to criticize the powers that be. I just would disagree that there's I don't think the burning the flag is making that much of a point anymore since people have done it so much and it's really not owning anyone anymore except for maybe their own image of working towards. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm glad that the burning the flag thing isn't a very currently relevant thing going on in politics. It's not like part of the culture war narrative.
Yeah,
at the
that's
moment.
what I mean.
It does seem like these issues, like I remember back in 2016, everybody was arguing over the right to burn the American flag. But are you ready for X? I was thinking, how are you gonna rhyme X? There are not a lot of words that start with X. However,
I was go out of the box.
I was really surprised when I saw X is for Xanderhal. I was pretty surprised. I didn't know that you were so aware of me. No, but X.
Yeah, you're welcome.
X is for censorship.
So happy you got a copy and saw it.
Yeah. X is for censorship. Xenial, Zulos, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, xylophone, or xenon. There are so many ways I'm already flustered. There are so many words I could lean on. X isn't only a letter, though. It can be very dangerous, so you should know. X is the symbol of censorship. Free speech and thought are what that seeks to trip. Or to strip? I can't read. Censorship's dangers are vital to know because XXXXX about as ironically as many times as my name has letters. So that could just be censoring Xanderhal. That's my headcanon. Those X's are censoring my name.
That's why it's dangerous.
Because Xanderhal. Oh. Are you getting curious what's blocked by that X? Sorry, they censored that part of the text. You'll never know what it said or might say. This is why censorship's never okay. So we're gonna do a bit of a
Okay. Of all the fucking letters that he brought up, okay? This is the one where I think you can legitimately say, why the fuck would you have this in a kid's book? Because even you yourself have said that you think that transgenderism is something that should be kept out of the classroom. Isn't that kind of like a form of censorship? Like, if we ever believed in censorship in society, shouldn't it be around our kids? Like, Do you want children to watch pornography? Probably not. Isn't that kind of a form of censorship? This should be the one area, I think, where we can find like a slam dunk. Like, this is like oddly political for children. Like, I don't know. Now, my kid's only 10. Maybe he's dumber than the average 10-year-old. I don't have very many talks with Nathan about political censorship. It's not a topic he's like very woke or well-read on. But let's see. Here we go.
What's that one YouTube channel where they ask like the rapper, they like play a bit of the rapper's lyrics and they're like, okay, so what were you thinking? What did you mean by that? What were you thinking? I forget what it's called. It's like Genius, yeah. So what were you thinking when you came up with those bars?
Well, let me tell you. Now, generally, I think that censorship is not a great idea. I think throughout history, it has been used to shut down dissident voices. It's been used to shut down criticisms of tyrannical governments. It's been used to shut up voices that we really need to hear, all sorts of perspectives, whether left or right. And as a general rule, I don't think it's a good thing. I'm sure you're going to sit here and try to pull up the exceptions, try to see if you can get me on one of those. But once again, it's a kid's book, not a political.
Yeah, but again,
it's a general rule.
I actually just have questions, not really much to argue.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your definition of censorship? Like, how broad is it?
Well, the shutdown, especially on a political level, legal level, of people's First Amendment rights, being able to have a conversation, and even on a private level, I would argue that I have problems with corporations that are supposed to be platforms for free speech, like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, that have claimed publicly, we want people to have open debate, shutting people up because they are criticizing authorities, or shutting people up because they have opinions that aren't necessarily
PC
deemed to be within the status quo. So just this morning, with no explanation, James O'Keefe lost his Twitter account because he's been putting out leaks of CNN saying they deliberately tried to sway the election using propaganda.
God, I don't think Xanderhall's familiar enough with it. This would be, if you wanted to have a slightly more aggressive conversation, I think I could bring this up in a friendly manner. You want to talk about slander and you want to talk about defamation and bad fucking claims, and then you're going to come out and defend O'Keefe? Come on. No way, Jose. Not a good look for you. There have been so many blatant misrepresentations of truth by O'Keefe that we can all watch videos about. I feel like that's like a slam dunker there. Like, come on. How are you going to defend him?
I think that's really worthy to talk about, whether our media are unbiased or whether they are deliberately trying to influence us in political ways. And his account was shut down. Now, we haven't really been given an explanation for that yet. Maybe it was because there's a legal suit behind it. I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation. But if there's not, I think that's a very wrong thing to do and very dangerous, because then people can't see critiques of authority and genuine wrongdoing.
So you bring up a lot of examples, so I want to make sure I got ahead on this one, just because I'm a very curious boy. I like learning about things. And it seems like the reason that Twitter banned James O'Keefe was for violating its platform manipulation and spam policy. I guess what he did was he had multiple accounts going, and he was making sock accounts.
Well, I'll have to see proof for that, because I doubt that's necessary.
How are you going to see proof
he just
of
kind
that?
Of sends out, like, when he comes out with his videos, he'll DM people, including me, and say, hey, do you want to share this? I don't think that would be necessary, but if it is, then fair enough. If someone's genuinely violated the terms of service, and someone's genuinely done something wrong, I am against that. But, you see, and I think that censorship can happen in lots of different ways as well, and you see it. Okay, sorry, I'm getting into a bit of a rant here, but the point is, like, historically, when people have been told, no, you're not allowed to criticize the church, or we're going to burn you at a stake. No, we are going to arrest you if you have socialist opinions. No, we are going to arrest you if you have nationalist opinions, or if you speak out against Stalin, we're going to put you in front of a firing squad. That kind of censorship, we'll just keep it basic like there, because we can get into all the convoluted stuff happening today with big tech, but that basis, that's what I'm talking about, is, genuine oppression and government shutting up and censoring genuine critiques and genuine questions and concerns about powers that be.
Okay, so you're cool with like TOS or like are you cool with like Twitter TOS? Like if someone breaks the TOS that you agree to, then someone getting banned, that's completely okay?
Depends what the TOS is, and also depends how it's being applied. For example, you see on YouTube, okay, they've got the TOS where you can't talk about shootings and violence and this kind of stuff, or you'll be demonetized. And I think that to an extent is a type of censorship, saying we're going to take away your income if you speak about certain issues. And you saw what happened is lots of people who ended up talking about mass shootings, such as Casey Neistat, even just fundraising for it, had strikes on their channels and were demonetized.
I did too.
But for some reason, mainstream figures...
Oh my God. I had this idea yesterday, guys. Holy shit. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt this for a second. Do you think it would be possible? So we tried the canvassing thing, okay? We've tried other shit, okay? Do you think it'd be possible that we could fundraise money for studies? Like, could we find a group of researchers and say like, hey, we'll fundraise like $20,000. Like, can you guys do like a study on the effects of like minimum wage or rent control? I wonder how much it costs to commission a study. I don't want to like start like a think tank or anything like that because those always get accused of being biased. But do you think you could ever approach like researchers at like the University of California or the university and it's just like, hey, like, you guys need money to do research? Like, can you guys do like, can we commission a study on like this effect here? I wonder how much money that would cost. Yeah, it'd kind of be like creating like a grant or whatever. I think that's a fuck ton of money. I mean, it would depend on the type of study, right? Like medical shit is going to be millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But like, well, I don't know. I'm super curious.
I can't remember what his name, one of the hosts of The Tonight Show, could do a huge monologue on shootings and remain monetized, which makes you wonder, is this, once again, one of these classism problems where you have an elite class all protecting each other and all allowing each other to talk and say certain things and have certain conversations, but if the lower class, the people that aren't in the inn, talk about it, they'll be demonetized and have their income taken away.
All right.
Because they want to control the narrative and they want to control the wealth. And I think how those TOS are applied, we all know are not applied fairly. We've seen it before, time and time again, and that's worth critiquing and worth talking about.
All right. I am someone who does a lot of studying into YouTube's algorithm and how the behind the scenes works with it, and I can assure you that is not most likely not some bias against smaller creators. What seems to occur is the reason why a lot
of... Wait, let's see if he gets this right. So the real answer to this is most likely people that have high-level channels belong to high-level multi-content networks. I think MCNs are what they're called. I don't know if it's multi-content. Multiple channel network? There's a name for MCN. I don't remember. But like they belong to these networks that get them individuals that work in these companies that have multi-channel networks, that have like closer connections to actual like YouTube or Google staff. And then you're able to like expedite your issues if you're having problems. So instead of like sending in a random support ticket, I can talk to like one of the guys that works for my MCN and be like, yo, my channel got fucked for this. Can you talk to your guy at YouTube and figure it out? That's usually why these channels get expedited support tickets and get issues resolved in like unique ways.
Of my content, about 90% of it maybe is demonetized, or not demonetized, but like yellow $sign or red $sign. I very rarely get the green. I get like a lucky 2 or 3 green $signs in a row, and it's a really good day. I smile. The reason why this tends to happen is the reason why YouTube implemented their demonetization policy was to help them keep ads on the platform. A lot of people rely on YouTube in order to make a living, and most people on YouTube aren't making content that's, controversial. Most people are Minecraft Let's Players or vloggers or people doing stuff that advertisers aren't going to have an issue with. But when you have hardcore political topics, currently happening events being discussed, advertisers get really iffy about that, and they get really mad if they find out their ads are playing on something they don't want it to play on because that could get their company in trouble. This is just a symptom of capitalism. So YouTube's in a position where to protect their income and the income of their creators,
you have a
they
missile
have to
rack
implement
mod?
a system that those advertisers will
and I've got the specialization.
allows them to grade that
on my
content
character.
And be like, okay, is this too yikesy
because
for
Destiny
us to run
pilots
ads
this shit,
on?
baby.
All right, there we go.
Sorry.
Now YouTube's a very big platform. A lot of people make content on it. In the grand scheme of things, nobodies. Right. I'm a nobody compared to Jimmy Fallon or John Oliver. Most of these of people like us cannot be graded on an individual level by YouTube. Maybe we'll get lucky, and if we submit a regrade of our videos, a review, then maybe we'll get the green dollar sign, or an actual person will review it more closely, but that usually can't be done. But someone like John Oliver, Jimmy Fallon, larger figures that have a larger media presence, typically YouTube can trust them not to break their TOS or do anything that advertisers would get mad about, because they run on TV and they get advertisements there all the time. So this is more of a capitalism problem.
You also, depending, I don't know if YouTube still does this or not, but depending on the size of the MCMs, they used to be called something different back in the day. I think they did. But depending on the size of the MCM, you can also, I think, sell your own ads against the platform too. I don't know if they still do this, but like I'm pretty sure that way back in the day, you could actually have like, you own an MCN and then you get like unique advertisements that are sold just to the channels that are being managed out of your thing. So you have like a different relationship with those advertisers as well.
Then a elite is keeping the little guy down problem.
Normally I would agree with you, and I think you are making a valid point here, but it doesn't explain people like Shoe on Head, for example, who just put out a video on Hell World or whatever, and she got demonetized, completely not getting any profit from it, and yet YouTube is still playing ads on her videos. So they're literally just...
So when you get demonetized, what happens is you personally don't make... No, hold on, fuck, let me think. Okay, you get demonetized. Okay, this is a little complicated. If you get demonetized because there's like a policy violation or something related to that on YouTube, fuck, there's like 20 different things that can happen. Okay, hold on, let me write all these down, hold on. No, we should be able to check this out. Okay, several things can happen to your video. If it's like super offensive, so either one, you can get a community strike, which means the video is just removed, or two, it might be a certain edgy topic, and what happens is YouTube will limit the ads that can run on this video, meaning that advertisements can still be run, but they'll be incredibly limited. I don't know if you get paid for that or not. I think you still get paid for that. There's another form of demonetization though, where you will get quote unquote demonetized because you hit like a copyright, part of the copyright ID system. So your video gets demonetized, you don't make money, but YouTube will still run ads because whoever claimed your video is making money off of it as well. It depends on what exactly is going on. People use like demonetized to describe like, it could be like 5 or 6 different things that happens. It just depends. But if their video genuinely got demonetized because it was like bad content or whatever, or like offensive content, I don't think that YouTube, there might be some limited ads that run on those videos, but it comes from a much smaller pool. Yeah, but if you get, there's a difference between being demonetized and having your videos being deemed not safe for advertisers. Yeah, kind of. Well, it depends. I mean, it can all be demonetized to you. But if like a copyright ID claims your video, you will get quote unquote, I think you still get the red dollar sign. You get demonetized, but they're still running normal ads against it. It's just that revenue is being claimed by another company. But if you run into like like an edgy material warning or whatever, I forget what they call it, you'll get a notification saying limited ads are running on this video. And I think you even get like a notice when you try to click those videos on YouTube. It'll say like, oh, you need to sign in to view this 18 or older or whatever. And that's drawn from a much smaller pool. But sorry, okay.
Taking away the income of smaller creators that may compete with larger mainstream outlets while still making money off them and while still keeping advertisers on their videos.
I'm pretty sure
like that still doesn't add up with the argument you're making here, which I don't entirely disagree with and think is a valid analysis.
I forget what his name was, but I know there was a YouTuber that does like deep dives into the YouTube algorithm and how to break it, talked about this problem and how it was a glitch, because this guy does like deep dives into the YouTube algorithm. But from my understanding, the reason why Shoe on Head's, and I love Shoe on Head, me and her are friends. I love her videos on Hell World. They're very good videos. The most recent one that she uploaded discussed a lot of stuff that's going on right now that's obviously not advertiser friendly. That's easily going to get demonetized, or at least the yellow dollar sign. And she probably knew that going in. As for ads playing on the video anyway, from my understanding, that was a glitch. It's a convenient glitch for YouTube, but nonetheless, from the experts that I've seen that like built their entire channels on investigating the YouTube algorithm and how to exploit it, they've said it is also a glitch. So,
right, okay. Yeah. But even the point you've made there, which is they can trust these mainstream media outlets more and know that they're going to be more safe with advertisers, that's still a continuation of implementing and supporting the class system that tries to prevent, poorer, lower class, smaller creators from breaking into the big time and making money off doing it. And I think that needs to be questioned and that needs to be challenged.
That's kind of true.
Also I think
Remember, okay, left-leaning people don't like to talk about this, but all forms of regulation will almost always disproportionately impact smaller channels. Whether you're talking regulation, whether you're talking preferential treatment, whether you're whatever, like generally smaller people get hurt by this more than larger people. So like in the case of YouTube, like having direct contacts to YouTube or being part of an MCN or blah, 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 like this form of treatment will always like favor like larger people. And the way that YouTube like implements its TOS, when stricter guidelines are released, it's probably gonna hurt like smaller people that don't have access to these large MCNs more than the larger people.
most people would agree, left wing or right wing, whatever their views may be, that we have seen over time the TOS not applied properly. We have seen it unfairly applied. And if I'm wrong, if the TOS is never being misused, if it's always correct, maybe I am wrong. I don't know. I don't think I am, though.
Sure. TOS can never be applied completely equally until we have like with Twitter, YouTube, all these systems, these are all run by algorithms and bots. Typically, unless
how did it retreat? It's a freighter.
Attention, there is no way that YouTube is able to go over I think it's like 4 million hours of footage are uploaded to YouTube every day. It's something insane. Same goes for Twitter. Like millions upon millions upon millions of tweets being uploaded every day. This is all done by robots. And robots, maybe sometime in the future when we have ultra high advanced quantum computing, maybe then they'll be able to perfectly apply TOS. Right now, that's not always going to be the case. The people that are going to have direct action done upon them by the company that runs whatever platform, getting banned or getting unbanned, it's typically going to be done when it drums up a large media frenzy about it, right? Like if it gets trending on Twitter, that someone was falsely taken down. I mean, I'm pretty close to the YouTube drama community. I've sort of made friends with a lot of those people. There are completely apolitical YouTubers that get falsely striked down all the time for no reason whatsoever, and they get brought back when enough people on Twitter make a big fuss about it and at YouTube. I don't think this is so much a deliberate agenda by like the elites or whatever. I think this has to do with the incompetence of a company that has no other way of regulating this massive platform and how many people use it.
I think that's part of it, and I won't discount that at all, because I do think that that's an absolutely fair analysis. But we've also, we've observed on a large level where they would have individually analyzed both because they're big figures. This hypocrisy and not applying things evenly taking place, like with Donald Trump when he was taken off Twitter and every platform. He was even taken off Pinterest, as if Trump's sitting there with pin boards, making up how he's going to arrange his floral arrangements in his house. But
what is it with these lefties and just accepting shoe on head? They don't seem to do the same for people like Chris Reagan. Are they just coomers? Yeah, I mean, it's like an attractive girl. She is. She's very attractive. Wants to talk about politics and meme with you or whatever. I think she has a huge edge in like making inroads with other people. Lauren Southern could probably do the same if she moderated her politics a bit too. Although it's harder for her since she was almost basically literally a fucking Nazi a few years ago. But
why was Trump banned?
Saw him banned. He was banned because they alleged that he was promoting rioting, and they alleged that he was promoting, an insurrection. Even though he tweeted something that some people would interpret as, well, I guess this is what happens when you rig an election, and for saying that the election was rigged. And also, even though he posted after, go home in peace and don't behave this way, but we know for ages. Tons of Democrats have accused the Russians of stealing elections. They've accused Trump of being an invalid president. We've seen Colin Kaepernick come out and say, support rioting and not get banned off Twitter. So this has been this application of banning people for apparently or potentially supporting riots and for saying elections are rigged. It's only used one way very often.
Lauren,
I didn't see a single person being banned for saying Russians stole the election.
So Lauren, I have bad news.
Lauren,
you have stepped on my trap card.
Oh God.
So Trump's banning was because, for one, he alleged that he repeatedly, over the course, a long period of time, alleged that he won the election. Not that, something might have happened, that he won the election, the Democrats stole it, it was illegal, and when he said, stand back and stand by, you can interpret that however you like, but even once this insurrection happened at the Capitol, he said, you're very special, I appreciate that you did this, but this is what happens when you steal the election. This is why he got banned. A lot of people saw it. He obviously broke tons of other TOS.
That's what I said.
On top of that,
I agree with you.
On top of that, what was the other thing that you brought up after the Trump thing?
I said stolen election and riots.
Yes.
I mentioned both things you're mentioning slightly differently.
So you argued that it was slanderous for the Democrats to argue, or for like the mainstream media Democrats,
I didn't say slanderous.
People,
I said they too.
Or it was the same thing. It was comparable.
Said elections were illegitimate, which is why people are getting banned for saying the election results were illegitimate.
Totally different types of claims.
They investigated this, and
This is like the meme that never dies with conservatives. When Democrats say that like there was malfeasance in the election, or at least my understanding is no mainstream Democrat came out and said like the actual polls themselves, the actual vote tallies themselves were rigged. It's more that there was like undue influence by foreign powers, namely Russia. That's a far different claim than saying the election itself, the vote totals were actually rigged. Unless maybe there were some Democrats that were saying that, but I didn't see very many mainstream Democrats say anything like that.
Found that Russiagate.
Do you think that when people describe you as a debate bro, it creates an image of someone like this in their heads? Yeah, I get described as a debate bro, but I think that I'm generally like pretty chill in most of my conversations. My earlier conversations, maybe from 4 years ago, might have been more like debate bro-y for sure, but I think I'm like pretty chill. It's very rare that I'll like source, or anything like that. Destiny, you're gonna lose a few ships to this. Bro, I'm in the motherfucking onslaught, okay? I don't lose shit to these shit stations anymore. I'm a fucking god, okay? I'm a warrior in this shit. Fuck you. Okay, sorry.
It wasn't Trump colluding, but it was Trump's administration and the Republican Party colluded with Russia to leak those things about the Democrats to help him in the election. There was collusion found. There were prosecutions that happened over this. The court documents are completely available.
Okay, so I completely disagree with that analysis of the Mueller report. But way before that, before there was any investigations and any conclusion to investigations, people were saying Russians stole the election, and they weren't getting banned.
Because it had already been found that the Russians were paying for ads on
no,
things like,
no,
Facebook,
you gotta.
That the Russians were working to help get Trump elected.
Okay,
that had already been found.
So now we've discovered
the collusion was the part that had to be proven.
So now we've discovered that CNN was working to get Biden into office. Is that election stolen?
No.
Can I now
what?
say the election was stolen by CNN and not get banned?
Did CNN hack the RNC to leak information about Trump?
No, they said they controlled the minds of the people with propaganda to try to get Trump out of office. Can I say that the election was stolen by CNN now without getting banned?
I don't think that's comparable, no. I don't think that's comparable to leaking information from the party.
You're saying that because Russians bought bots to spread information, that's stealing an election, but I can't say when CNN openly says
the reason why you heard people say
one of the largest platforms in America to try to spread propaganda to get Trump out of office. That isn't the same.
The reason why you heard random libs on Twitter saying that the election was hacked by the Russians was because it had already been revealed that the Russians were spreading misinformation on platforms to try to get Trump elected. That's where that came from. The Democrats did not try to overturn the election. It was nowhere near comparable to what the Republicans did after Biden won the election. And the reason why now Russiagate ended up being true was because after all the investigations, they found that, yes, Trump's administration, the Republican Party, worked with the Russians to hack the DNC and spread that stuff, the emails about Hillary, to help
work with the Russians to hack the DNC. I don't know if I'd say that.
Get Trump elected. That's what was found.
I don't know how familiar Lawrence Southern is with this stuff, though, so he might get away with that one.
Fair. That's why Trump didn't get in any trouble legally for it. However, people in Trump's administration...
Wait, the reason why Trump didn't get any trouble legally for it is because I think that Mueller specifically said it wasn't up. Collusion isn't a crime. That's not what... There is no such thing as collusion as a crime. They were looking for conspiracy. And I think Mueller said that the level of their investigation, that wasn't something that they felt like they could adequately prove at the time.
And people that Trump worked with did, because there was collusion. It was found. The court documents are there. You can look them up.
Let me ask you. How much money do you know how much money the Russians spent on ads?
I have no clue. No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, it wasn't even a fraction, not even a slight fraction of what Biden spent on the election, or even what CNN would spend on a couple days of media. They spent $100,000 on Facebook ads. And you're trying to allege that that's comparable to CNN spending 4 years of primetime TV trying to get their candidate elected? That's not even remotely comparable.
Why are you going back to the people? I'm not talking about... Holy shit, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit frustrated, but I'm going to try to keep my cool, okay? Why do you keep going back to comparing what came out from the Mueller investigation and numerous investigations that were done by the U.S. government to find out whether or not there was collusion between Trump's administration, his election.
You just admitted there was no collusion between Trump and the Russians. You were saying
Trump's administration and his like running party.
So what was the exact thing that the Russians did that won Trump the election?
The Republican Party and Trump's administration, not Trump, people in Trump's administration worked with the Russians to hack the DNC to leak those emails from Hillary's private server.
So Hillary was doing illegal things, and that got exposed.
That's still collusion with the Russians. That's where the collusion thing came from.
Okay, so Hillary was.
Wait, I'm not trying to argue in favor of Hillary here. The election was like back in 2016. I'm not trying to argue that. That's collusion.
So you're saying people having access to more information, real legitimate information about what the other candidate was doing, won Trump the election. Okay.
Wait, people went to jail for colluding with the Russians for this. We were colluding with an enemy country to hack into a government party in our country.
Did anyone go to jail for collusion? Oh, God, I don't even remember. Manafort went to jail because of stuff related to bad reports to the State Department, which he should have. Manafort got fucked, rightfully so. Let's see. Why did Stone go? Was it for lying to the fuck, I forget all these charges. I don't think anybody went to jail for quote-unquote collusion. Like I said before, collusion isn't a crime. It's not a crime. I think that you can get people in like conspiracy to do things that are bad, but like there's not conspiracy for collusion. Like it's just not a crime. It's just not a crime. It's not a thing. I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember. It's been so long since I've debated the Russian shit, but.
Country, like it's not our country, but in America, an enemy country, they colluded with another country, this is treason, to leak information on another party. That's where Russiagate came from. That was what came of it. There were convictions. You can look it up. The court documents are public. There's some redacted stuff because for national security, but it is completely available there. This isn't a secret.
Okay, fine, and it's also not a secret that, and that's why I don't think that people should have been banned. I'm not arguing that people should have been banned from Twitter or Facebook for talking about Russian collusion. I have never argued that once. You guys, on the progressive side of things, Democrats, big tech, are arguing that people shouldn't be allowed to talk about potential problems with the election that Biden won. No one has argued that people should be censored for talking about potential collusion with the Trump-Hillary election. It's only one side arguing there should be censorship. Well, I'm saying there is legitimate information showing CNN colluded to try to get Trump out of office, and you're not taking any of that seriously, and you are still supporting censorship of people who want to talk about it.
My concern isn't...
I wonder if it would be illegal for CNN to do what Russia did. So to be clear, when it came to the Internet Research Agency, what the indictments were for, I believe, was not... Oh, I shouldn't quote. I'm too lazy to look it up. Somebody go look it up. I can tell you what happened. I don't remember what the actual indictments were for. But what happened was a fake U.S. company was set up. There was a front that was Russian people were paying people to do political ads in the United States, but they misrepresented themselves as domestic agents when they were actually foreign agents. That was the crime. The Internet, the IRA... I think it was the IRA is what they call themselves, the Internet Research Agency. Those indictments had to do with the fact that they lied about being foreign entities. If CNN wants to do like advertising or whatever, they can do that. But I could be wrong, but I'm guessing if CNN were to misrepresent itself and lie about starting a company or whatever, you'd probably get in trouble for filings or something. I don't know. But yeah, like that was the issue. It wasn't just that like Russia is advertising or it's that they created these fake companies to push propaganda and they lied about it. They didn't, because I think that when you do that as a foreign agent, especially, one, I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that regarding politics, but two, there are filings you have to make with the State Department to like show that you're like an authentic person and all that shit.
People who want to talk about it, I'm talking about it right now. My problem is when people deliberately spread misinformation. There were people on the right on these platforms that were saying the election was stolen. There was no evidence, no concrete evidence whatsoever that's been found that hasn't been debunked about there being...
I run political campaigns on Facebook as a tiny shit-stained small company. We ran 100K in Facebook ads in 1 week sometimes. The effect of the Russian ads was virtually nothing in the scheme of things. First of all, the budget wasn't the problem. The problem was the scope of some of these things. So for instance, I believe... was it the GOP Tennessee account? One of these accounts was just a fake account ran by Russians. And I think it was called, can somebody tell me what it was? It was like GOP _Tennessee. right? Like, people thought this was an official GOP account. It was just like ran by Russians. Maybe somebody here will know more specifically. But it wasn't just the it wasn't just about the money spent. Also, a tiny shit-stained small company, if you're running $100,000 in Facebook ads in a single week, I don't think that you're a tiny shit-stained small company. That's a pretty hefty fucking advertising budget. $100,000 in one fucking week. Or I don't know what you mean when you say small company, but
that the Democrats stole the election, that Biden stole the election. There's no evidence whatsoever. It is completely unsubstantiated. And that rhetoric goaded conservatives into doing what they did at the Capitol on the 6th.
So you don't think rhetoric of saying that Trump stole the election and that it was all the Russians that did it, which I do not agree. I don't think it was all
I don't think it was all the Russians, but I think
you don't think that rhetoric can cause riots and cause disorder, which it did. I was there. I was at the riots that occurred and destroyed massive areas of DC.
Wait, what? Maybe I missed this. What DC huge riots were there that caused mass destruction over the Russia stuff? Did this happen? I know that there happened some big ones for BLM. Were there for the Russia stuff? Do I just not remember this? I know that on election day there were a few like protests and maybe even some. Were there really big ones? I'm trying to. She's talking about the Capitol riots. Wait, like in 2021, like the most recent shit, or in 2016? I'm trying to think if like there was like big damage that happened over this. Okay, protests occurred in Oakland, California against the election of Donald Trump. While originally peaceful, these protests became violent, with protesters lighting trash cans and cars and a building on fire. Okay, so there was a riot in Oakland. "30 people got arrested, 3 people were injured." Okay, not good. There shouldn't be right, but like this is not even remotely close to the scale of like the other Capitol riots or anything, right? Also, I don't know if these people were protesting because of Russia or just because they fucking hated Trump. Also in DC? Were there like riots in DC too that caused damage? When I think of riot, I usually think of like violence or damage being caused, not just... Why are you tracking me? Look at your disgustingly small fleet compared to the size of my fleet. You fucking child. We're gonna annihilate you. Space ISIS.
When Trump went into office on his inauguration, and surprisingly, no one talked about that much. And the problem I don't have with it, I don't have a problem.
But the difference is that the left was right.
Misinformation. I don't have a problem with. So the left were right to do that. They were right to destroy DC and destroy people's businesses.
They were right about Russian collusion.
No.
Okay, so
why are we talking about this? What happened to the book?
Banned right away before any investigation had properly taken place. And you know what? It looks like Trump supporters were right that there was some form of rigging as well, which is with CNN propaganda.
That's not the same thing at all.
That's not what rigging is.
Oh my God.
We're talking about collusion, not rigging.
No.
When it comes to nobody argued the election was rigged.
The Russians stole the election.
Nobody with any credibility argued that the Russians hacked into the election, like for sure. Nobody argued that. There were like random people on Twitter and Facebook, but we're talking about something that was confirmed by an investigation by the government. And something with no evidence.
There is an inconsistent application of the TOS, and we know that. They say they ban people for talking about people stealing elections when they are, and they say they ban people when they talk about starting violence. Let's look at a more solid example here instead of arguing the nuances of the Mueller report. Colin Kaepernick directly supported a revolution and violence against the government and has not been banned from Twitter. So you can
what did Kaepernick say?
That revolution, you can agree with his support of that violence, but that still points out what I'm saying here, which is there is an inconsistent application of the TOS.
So Colin Kaepernick's statement was, "When civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction." He said on Instagram and Twitter, "The cries for peace will rain down, and when they do, they will land on deaf ears because your violence has brought this resistance." Wait.
That's almost...
Listen, okay? This is why we were in the now we've left whatever arc I was on before where I was being too nice, even though people still said it was mean, okay? This is why we're on the full fuck socialist arc. He should have been banned for that, okay? That shit is cringe as fuck. The guillotining people, the calling for violence, and the blood in the street, don't do it, okay? Whoever you are, don't fucking do it. Don't do it. That's fucking cringe, okay? If Kaepernick really tweeted that as he just read it, then yeah, you know what? He should have got a ban for that. Fuck you, all right? If I'm not allowed to talk about bombing my ISP in a video game, fuck you. You can't talk for shit like that.
Almost identical to what Trump was saying.
That's not even close to what Trump was saying.
Trump was saying, well...
What Kaepernick said was arguably as a single statement was more aggressive than what Trump was saying, but in the totality of Trump's rhetoric, I think Trump's was worse, obviously.
The only thing is he's directly saying we have to fight back, where Trump was saying this is what happens when you rig an election. And once again, people would disagree that civility leads to death. And people would disagree with Trump that the election was rigged.
Wait, so you think that him saying that people fighting for civil rights and Trump lying about the election being stolen because he's salty, and then those people proceeding to go to the Capitol and try to break in, which, by the way, they're all getting arrested. Their identities are being collected by the government, but they're being arrested.
It's crazy to me that they're
Do you think these are comparable?
There's current rioting going on in Portland. And
of course they're focusing on that.
Wait,
it was an insurrection attempt.
Wait, people got arrested for a lot of the riots going on and the other stuff, though, right? We literally saw videos of people getting so ass mad because people getting dragged off and arrested for it. Well, actually, can we look up? Like, how many people were arrested over, like, the riots for the BLM shit? I'm pretty sure there are quite a few. However, that is on a way different level than breaking into the goddamn Capitol building, obviously. What the fuck are you thinking? Who are you? You guys are cringe. Look at this collection of garbage. Why do you even think you can... What do you want to talk about? Submit, report. Okay, whatever.
Taken over dozens of federal buildings over the last year, who created their own autonomous radical zone called Chaz, in which multiple people died, and they're not searching for any of those people. I'm saying everyone should be found out who led to the death of people who tried to take over federal buildings. Everyone.
14,000 plus arrests over the George Floyd protests.
It sounds to me like you're saying only one side should be arrested for doing that. And the point here is people are going to disagree with Trump's statements and cause and find them non-factual at all, and people are going to disagree with Kaepernick's cause and find them non-factual at all. And who knows? We're watching the case right now.
You understand,
and he may walk. And
you understand that the vast majority of these BLM protests, 93%, have been completely peaceful.
What does that have to do with
this
anything?
Is even close to Trump.
Gosh. And guess what? 99% of Trump rallies have been peaceful. Like, why are you trying?
Oh, he walked into that
because
one.
I'm talking about a specific occurrence.
I'm not the one that's trying to excuse trying to excuse what happened at the Capitol. Most Trump rallies are peaceful. You're the one trying to excuse the BLM violence.
Because I'm talking about a very specific riot that happened, an attempt to break into our Capitol, and there were people there that clearly had the intention to kill or kidnap government officials, people that are elected officials, and you're trying to paint it as though BLM is this violent movement. It seems that way, at least.
Okay,
I feel like it's a reasonable way to interpret it.
Was there not literally an assassination of a Patriot Prayer member by a Black Lives Matter member with a tattoo of BLM on his neck within the last year? Please do not gloss over political radicalism.
Do you think this is even clear? What is up with the whataboutism?
I am not doing it with the Capitol. I am saying that is wrong, and they shouldn't have done that, and they should have been arrested for that. The only thing happening here is you are not acknowledging the radicalism, the actual fucking terrorism and murder of individuals by Black Lives Matter, the taking over of federal buildings by Black Lives Matter, the literal autonomous zone created by radicals in which multiple people died.
The Chaz thing was really cringe.
Acknowledge that and acknowledge it was wrong, because I've acknowledged the radicalism on my side and said it was wrong.
You just bite the bullet on this. That's easy. Of course it's wrong. Of course.
I don't know much about the.
No.
I don't know much about the Chaz thing. I think it was like pretty larpy and insubstantial, and I'm not a big fan of it. And I think that rioting typically is at best it's bad optics, and at worst it's probably not good, because depending on where you're rioting.
What about murdering people? What about the
probably not good
man who was murdered?
Not good.
Probably not good.
No, not a fan of it. No, not very.
Okay.
Don't think highly of it.
Then we agree.
Okay, so you don't. We agree that it is not comparable what Colin Kaepernick said to what Trump did when he was rallying his fan base to attack the Capitol?
I think both caused radicalism and violence, and both should be condemned, but I don't necessarily think either of them should be banned from Twitter. That's the only disagreement here, is that you're being inconsistent and I'm being consistent.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I've been pretty consistent, but all right. How have I been inconsistent?
In both instances, Trump rallied. I think it's questionable whether Trump rallied up people. I don't think he rallied up people to go and cause an insurrection. That's one interpretation of his tweet, saying he potentially defended it by saying this is what happens.
Oh,
but
no.
he certainly wasn't telling people to go.
Okay, I don't know about the tweet shit. Fuck the tweet. He literally gave a speech talking about how the election and everything was about to be stolen, talking about how Pence had failed him on Twitter earlier, and then said, all right, guys, it's only 2 blocks from here. Let's go, or whatever. We can go listen to the exact quote. Like,
because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election.
Let's have trial by combat.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
man, what do you expect to happen? Come on, dude.
And he tweeted out after, be peaceful and go home. Whereas Colin Kaepernick has...
Didn't he tweet that, be peaceful and go home? Somebody could, I don't know the timeline. I could be wrong. I admit I could be wrong on this. I don't think it's that relevant. But didn't he tweet the be peaceful and go home after they'd already broken into the fucking building? Or, like, wasn't that literally after they'd already breached the, like... I mean, like, that's a little late at that point.
Has actively called for a revolution and actively called for violence. That's the difference between these tweets. And I'm not even saying Kaepernick should be banned or taken off Twitter. If they actually followed their TOS, he would. But you are trying to argue that somehow
Lauren
Kaepernick
is consistent
should be
here, to be
absolved
fair.
of this rhetoric that has led to
Because
murder,
Kaepernick
that has led
hasn't-
to people's shops being
So,
burned down,
for
that has
starters,
led to mass riots for
Colin
years.
Kaepernick-
You're excusing it.
Colin Kaepernick isn't the president, for one.
That doesn't-
Two,
that's not
from my
relevant to the
understanding,
TOS.
Colin Kaepernick
He still
didn't
has
tweet it
mass
out.
amount of power over people and their opinions, apparently more than the president himself, because he didn't get banned from Twitter, whereas the president has lost his voice on every platform in the country.
The president had protections, TOS protections, for years. He didn't get banned until right before he
And
left
still got banned
office.
off everything.
Yes, after he got
And
out of
still got
office because he
banned
kept
off
on breaking
everything.
TOS, and they didn't ban him.
For doing less than what
They
Colin
voluntarily,
Kaepernick has done, which Colin
Twitter
Kaepernick
voluntarily
has actively
didn't
called
ban
for
Trump for
violence.
breaking TOS.
Trump has literally told his fan base to go home in peace. Kaepernick has not.
Okay, you got it, man. Dude, fuck, I wish I was talking to this. You have to wonder, okay? If you've gotten to a point where you have to tweet, guys, can you please be peaceful? You probably fucked up somewhere in there, right? At some point, you probably made mistakes. Like, if you ever find yourself tweeting out, like, guys, I think it's time to go home. Can you please stop, like, fucking being, like, violent? Like, something has gone very wrong, I think, okay?
Not done that
Trump
once.
said
He's
you
not
are.
once told
Trump said,
people
"I
not
love
to
you.
riot.
You're very
He's not once
special,
told
but this
people-
is what you all need to go home. You're very special. You're my beautiful little pog champs. But this is what happens when you steal the election from me. By the way."
So the difference, right? So the difference between the Trump tweet is Trump said, "This is what happens, but you guys should still go home and not do this," and Kaepernick just said, "Cause violence."
Sure. If Colin Kaepernick got banned, I probably wouldn't really care. But to be completely honest with
so
you,
you
I don't think
agree
he's
with
even
me.
close. Do you think they're comparable? Do you think they're comparable?
No, I don't. I think Kaepernick's
Okay.
is way worse.
Why?
Because he's calling for violence, whereas Trump was at worst
Wait,
maybe excusing it. At worst, whereas Colin Kaepernick is actively calling.
Are you a consequentialist?
What does this have to do?
A consequentialist is somebody who
not.
judges like how bad something is based on the outcome of doing that thing.
Stop.
Give me the context for it. In
Okay.
This case.
So what Trump did resulted in a full-scale attack on my Capitol, in an attempt for an insurrection.
I'm sorry, but if you think those LARPers were actually going to take over the Capitol, it's...
What do you? When I say take over, they broke in. They.
What do you mean by that? They were literally in the fucking building. They literally had to get shot and killed to get them to back out. Wait, how many federal officers were killed that day? Was it just 1 or was it 4? I don't remember anything. My brain. How many people died? Was it just? It was just 1, right? And then a few injuries, I think. Was it 4 injuries and 1 death? Like, wait, what do you mean you don't think people could break in? We literally watched it happen. Oh, 4 died total. Oh, okay, 1 officer and 3 rioters. Yeah, what are you talking about, Lauren?
They got in, they were looking for... Yes, they were there with handcuffs. They were looking to kidnap public officials. There is security cam footage.
A year of rioting and taking over.
That's the closest. That is the closest that's the closest the Confederacy ever got to taking over the government, considering it was the first time in history that a Confederate flag flew in the American Capitol. So there's that. There's also security cam footage of security guards.
It's actually crazy.
There's security footage of the vice president having to run down a hallway because a bunch of the rioters came around a corner and they almost got him.
Someone sniffed AOC's shoes. No one was trying.
They had to evacuate it.
Government. I think what they did was wrong.
The police had to shoot them. 4 people died.
If there's even a small part of you that thinks these LARPers were going to take over the government and start, I don't know, their wave the MAGA flag and start passing laws, you're insane.
Okay, I guess then I can easily respond. If you think that like a bunch of BLM protesters, like what is it, 8%, 7% of them, if you think that, or no, not even, how many percentage of them are peaceful? Let me just...
Okay, you can't do this like 6% peaceful when there are like millions of people doing this. This is not rhetorically a strong point.
Let me make sure, 93%. So if you think that 6% of these protests, if you think that 6% of these LARPers that are actually causing violence in these protests are going to really harm the country, then I guess you're taking it too seriously too, because if we're going to apply it, then we might as well apply it equally. I take a full-scale attack on our capital way more seriously.
These LARPers wouldn't harm the country. I said they weren't going to take over the government. I think they did harm to the country, as much as I think BLM have done
7%
more harm to the country. You've got this very neat trick of responding to things that I've never said.
I have debate tactics.
This entire debate. But yeah, no, I think both harm the country, and I've been consistent on this the entire time. But I think the degree of sustained protests and violence by BLM has added up to significantly more than the insurrectionists who just got way more media attention.
I feel like you've deliberately tried to downplay the effects of what the insurrectionaries at the Capitol did by calling them LARPers and saying they didn't even get close to anybody.
You used the word LARP first, mate. You're the one who called the people who made Chaz LARPers, and that's when I started using the word LARP. You are projecting all of the things.
They're LARPers, but you're trying to downplay what they did.
Well, aren't you trying to downplay what they did? Isn't that what she's saying?
But when you use the word LARP,
I don't. Why are you focusing on the word LARP?
Led to the deaths of multiple people.
I know. Listen, Lauren. I know LARP is a funny word. I know LARP is a funny word. It's fun to say.
God, he's being
I'm not
so
talking about them
condescending.
being LARPers. I'm not basing on you calling those people LARPers. We're talking about what they actually did and what they intended to go there to do, and what 4 people died as well. The Capitol security had to shoot people because they were about to get in to an area of the building where there were elected officials, and those people were there. There were people out there with guillotines and gallows there saying to cut off Mike Pence's head. There were people searching around offices trying to take information from elected officials' laptops. There were people there with handcuffs looking to kidnap. Why else did they have handcuffs? Looking to kidnap elected officials. I think it's pretty different. Both are bad, but pretty different than rioting in the streets. Pretty different.
Okay, so once again, you have glossed over. I still have not once tried to excuse the actions at the Capitol. I think that your number is potentially wrong because there were people who died of an overdose. They claimed a cop was killed by rioters who actually wasn't and had to be corrected. This had to be corrected later by the media. Once again, I still have never said that that was okay. You are trying to say that...
Why isn't my colony growing anymore?
Somehow that is different,
or is this the Mexican
mass different scale then all of the rioting that has gone on sustained for over a year, that has taken over multiple federal buildings, led to the deaths of significantly more people.
93% of the protests have been peaceful. I condemn the rioting. I don't think it's good.
99% of Trump rallies have been peaceful.
We're not talking about Trump rallies. You're the one that brought up the comparison. I'm talking about a very specific event, and you're trying to draw a comparison between a ex-football player.
I'm talking about very specific events too. I'm talking about rioting that has been going on.
The rioting is bad, and I don't support it. The rioting is bad, and I don't support it.
Well, why are you trying to say it's
because you're trying to? You are.
What happened at the Capitol when
it is. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's not as bad. I'm saying it wasn't.
It's not as bad to assassinate.
Wait, what's this thing? I'm not trying to say that this is better. I'm just saying that it's not as bad.
Assassinate people, to lead to multiple deaths, to kill. Like,
I'm not talking.
It's not as bad to literally
I'm not talking about the one you're talking. Wait, why do you keep going? You're switching around. You're switching around from riots to a very particular.
That at least is going to be repaired with the infinite government.
They were trying to kill people. They were trying to kill people, by the way.
BLM rioters successfully killed people.
And I don't support that. Whenever it happens, I don't support it. But why do you keep going? But how? Why is it? Why is it that you keep on bringing up BLM riots, and then when I go back to the Capitol, then you bring up the instance where like they assassinated one guy, which is horrible, and I don't support it. But you keep on trying to bring up that one instance, and I guess ostensibly try to connect it back to Colin Kaepernick, when the reason for the riot was very specifically because Trump kept on saying the election was stolen, and they wanted to punish our government officials for not keeping Trump in office. Why do you think that these are comparable in terms of who holds the responsibility for what? Because that's what this argument was about.
Because you've got a bunch of Black Lives Matter rioters saying we need to hold the government accountable as well, with literal. I've seen guillotines with Trump's head.
Stop saying guillotine. It's guillotine.
Where were those guillotines?
In the Capitol, when it has happened the other way around a million times.
The Nevada Dems memed about it being their new fucking symbol or whatever.
Sustained for over a year.
Where were those guillotines?
Okay, what we're arguing here. People can post pictures. There have been guillotines in the streets with Trump's head attached.
Where
to
though?
Pages.
Not at the Capitol. While hundreds of people, thousands of people are trying to break in and are specifically out to capture and behead that particular elected representative.
Somehow,
Black female. We're rounding out our crew now, boys. Hell yeah.
How it's worse if you take over a building
aggressive
with
gunnery implants,
terrorize and take over some poor Black person's shop. You think it's worse just because fucking Nancy Pelosi is in the building, but
we're talking about which figure.
Shop in Minneapolis.
The reason why this argument happened, I think they're both wrong. Yes, the reason why this conversation came up is because you brought up Colin Kaepernick's quote. I brought up Trump's quotes.
The conversation we're actually having is whether it's okay to incite rebellion or not. I think it's wrong.
Wait, is it better to be steady or aggressive? I retrained this guy to be steady.
Unless you can prove that the government is tyrannically, committing genocide and severely oppressive and all these things, and peaceful democracy is not an option, and you have gone past those points of being able to have civil debate and past those points of being able to, enact change in your communities. I do not think it's okay to incite civil rebellion, whether you're Colin Kaepernick or Donald Trump. What do you think?
Neither are okay, but the responsibility or how comparable what Colin Kaepernick did to Donald Trump, the comparison there is not even close in terms of the outcome and how harmful it is. And the intention. That's not even
the question here. The question is whether Twitter applies the TOS appropriately and whether it treats people who incite rebellion with the same treatment, and they don't, and I've proven that. And you're just arguing.
The reason why Twitter didn't ban Colin Kaepernick is, besides being like I don't even think there's that much attention on him anymore. Like, he's not even nearly as popular and well known and being listened to as much as he was back in like 2018.
You're allowed to violate the TOS, which I don't think he is unpopular.
You're asking why he wasn't banned. Should I ask you why insert lefty here that called for this like 100 follower account didn't get banned? Like, of course he broke.
I'm not the one arguing that the TOS is perfect. I'm the one arguing it's imperfect.
I'm not arguing that it's perfect either. Then
You're
where do?
arguing that it's been applied fairly.
No,
I
I'm
don't think
not.
it's been
I've
applied
never
fairly.
said once that the TOS applied fairly.
So we agree. Okay.
Wait,
so
then
we
what are they
agree.
even arguing
We're
about?
arguing over nothing. I think that the problem with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube giving them this much power over people's speech. First of all, I don't think private companies should have this much power over the discourse of the country. And second of all, I don't think they apply the TOS properly and they have bias. That's what the discussion was, and we agree on it apparently.
Okay, if we agree on that what Trump did was deliberate and was deserving of being banned, and what Colin Kaepernick did was probably something that Twitch could like logically ban him for breaking
Twitch. This is I like how we've made no progress in this discussion. What Lauren is saying is that if Trump is going to get banned, Kaepernick should get banned. But I think Xanderhall is trying to argue that what Kaepernick said was okay, but that what Trump said wasn't okay. But they're like going back between these two totally separate arguments.
TOS, then I don't think we disagree, right?
We disagree on that, and you know we do because you're being inconsistent. But I'm trying to move on here. Overall, you'd give the book a positive rating, it sounds like.
Yeah, I like the book. The book's pretty good.
Thank you. All right. If you guys want to pick it up for your kids, you can get it on Amazon, The ABCs of Morality. It's got a positive review from Xanderhall. I think I'm going to add a review on the back that says drops mad bars. And we might just change X's for Xanderhall in a lefty edition we release.
If that actually happens, I'm going to buy it. I will buy a lefty edition, or just in one single copy where X is for Xanderhall. I will buy it. Okay.
All right.
I'll buy a second copy.
I could actually make that happen, but I'll send you a copy as a thank you for having a fun little debate with me. Are there any? How long has it been?
I think it's been 2 hours.
It's been a couple hours, eh?
Yeah.
Are there any other last little notes you want to bring up? Because I did have a few little things I wanted to work on after this, but. I can stay to.
I guess the final meme would be, do you vape?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I'm gonna expose myself here. I actually struggled a bit with smoking for a while. Not very trad life of me, you know. But yeah, I started vaping.
That's pretty trad. Women,
try to
a lot of
mitigate
people used to
that,
smoke.
and since then, have managed to mostly get rid of both in my life. But I did hear you in the preamble to this that you wanted me to do a little vape, and unfortunately I don't have a vape on me, so you're just gonna have to vape one out for me.
Alrighty, I appreciate the honesty. I was curious. My chat wants you to say a phrase. Would you say trans rights?
Oh no. I think trans people should have the same rights as anyone else. Why, like?
All right,
This is what equal opportunity is, you know?
Yep.
Everyone gets treated the same and judged on the same scale.
But can you say trans rights though? People want to hear the exact sentence.
Okay, well, what does this mean on a larger scale? Because if it just means they have the same rights as everyone else, then trans rights, my dudes.
All right.
Can you say white rights, Xanderhall? Do white people have rights?
I love white people, okay? I love white people. White rights, of course. I think everybody deserves rights.
All right. There you go. That's good. I'm glad we agree. Look at this. This ended up being a really lovely agreement with just some friendly spats here and there.
Alrighty. Did you have a fun time?
I did. I had a good time. If you ever want to debate or chat about anything else, I'd be happy to.
Alrighty, well, hopefully you have a good night. I appreciate you coming on, and maybe you can come on in the future for, I don't know, maybe we can do like a set topic or something, like the trans issues stuff. We can talk about that more specifically if you ever want to come on again. And yeah, have a good one.
All right, you too.
See ya.
Bye.
Whoa, okay. I think I went over as much as I could there. Xanderhall wants to talk. Yeah, if he wants to, let me watch this. Hold on.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
In my experience, women also have no body heat. Like they always want the house turned up as hot as possible.
He's got like a basement full of female corpses, and this is actually a far darker joke than any of us realize.